Good evening. I call the April 15th City Council public hearing, City Council special meeting, and City Council public hearing to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Walker.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, we have a council member that is on video. Councilor DeJarbois is participating in this meeting remotely. Councilor DeJarbois, are you there?
Yes, I am.
In accordance with RSA 91A23A, was it reasonably impractical for you to be present at this meeting?
Yes.
What reasons shall the minutes state?
Illness.
I find that it is not reasonably practical for you, Councilor DeJarbois, to be here physically present at this meeting. In accordance with RSA 91A23C, please identify any persons present at the location from which you are participating at this meeting.
My wife and my 2 kids.
Okay, thank you. I call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilor Credo.
Present.
Councilor Dujafroy.
Present.
Councilor Horn.
Here.
Councilor Fitzpatrick.
Present.
Councilor Fontenot.
Present.
Councilor Herman.
Present.
Councilor Carolian has been excused. Councilor Richardson.
Present.
Councilor Sullivan.
Present.
Councilor Turner has been excused. Councilor Walker.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hammond.
Present.
Mayor Callahan.
Present, we have a quorum. This is a public hearing, and what I'll do now is I'll turn it over to Mr. Scala, Director of Economic Development, and our Finance Director, Mark Sullivan. So for the folks that are in the audience, they'll go first to give a quick presentation, and any councilors can ask some questions, and we'll open it up for public hearing, and at their end, if there's any questions that they can answer, they'll do so at the very end. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here to discuss a few things, most notably the acquisition of the parcels surrounding 161 South Main Street. In order to do that, I'd like to kind of put things in perspective as far as what this means, why the city would do this, and those sort of things. So, oh, is it? Okay. Greg, could you pull that up back up, please? Thank you. So the reasons why we would do something like this are based in the goals, the overall strategy for the city. Last year, the City Council initiated a group of goals that they signed off on and set them as one of their driving sort of factors throughout their terms. City Council goal number 2, our city has affordable housing and supporting, help our city in housing and supporting infrastructure. Action item 3, attract and facilitate housing developers to invest in housing creation in the city. Our recently completed economic development strategic master plan of 2023 cited something very similar. Increase efforts to downtown development potential, particularly with respect to residential mixed-use opportunities, thereby continuing recent trends, and so on. So it's, people are aware of the housing issues we have in the city and throughout the state. These studies, these goals kind of focus on that. We're in a deficit. Rochester still has a 1% or below vacancy rate when it should be 4%. Anything that we can do to help with that, anything we can do to promote development on any level is actually necessary for our businesses, for our community, and so that's one of the driving factors why we suggested this to the council. So I want to go over some sample municipal investments that the city's made in the past, with the goal always being to protect and increase the assessed value, the base of the city, but also as a secondary benefit to improve the quality of life of the community, the quality of place of the community. That involves safety, that involves amenities, that involves making the city a place where people want to live, want to raise their families, want to work. These are some of the larger projects that the city has in some form taken part of. Scenic Salinger, as you know, that's 50 units downtown. That's an Eric Schimberg project. The city had, it took a lot to get that project off the ground. It involved deeding a property, swapping a property, investing $400,000 in cleanup, selective demo to get it to the point where the investment by Schimberg could actually work. With that came a 79E, 7-year 79E for the creation of the housing, preservation of historic buildings and such. And out of that, we have 50 new units and 2 commercial units that are both full right now. The Hoffman Building, which turned into the Howard Building, we had the opportunity, we purchased that for $3.25 or $3, I think it was $3.25, $3.50. Sold it for $2.25, provided 79E, and we have 2 new commercial spaces and 45 residential units. As of now, I believe they have 40-ish units rented right now. So it really did help with the needs. Robbins Auto Body, purchased that. We demoed it, we sold it. Within the next month or so, we should be getting plans to develop 12 residential unit, kind of townhouse type units there. St. Elizabeth of Seton's a recent purchase. We were able to use ARPA funding coupled with the Economic Development Fund to come up with $1.6 million to develop housing with some affordable there. There's no commercial aspect to that, but there's a Riverwalk aspect to it. There's a part where the Riverwalk will be constructed along the side of the building, and we're working on that right now. Riverwalk Overlook is a combination of ARPA funds, city funds. There's going to be a 40-foot diameter overlook in our upper dam that'll become a focal point of our downtown. It'll become a destination. It'll bring people to the downtown. Courthouse, we initiated and received a swap with the state that we give them 5 acres out at our industrial park, and they give us the courthouse downtown. This has a double benefit in that it protects one of the most architecturally significant buildings in our downtown while allowing for the redevelopment of that into something greater, commercial, residential, all that. And also it gets the courthouse a new location out of town that's 4 courtrooms. They will be able to get rid of their backlog. They won't be shipping people to Dover anymore. So it was beneficial on multiple ends. And the former DPW building, we're in the process right now of getting that cleaned up for another developer to come in and create 80 affordable units. And we got a grant from the Invest New Hampshire grant for $250,000 towards the cleanup. And that really helped. So, I mean, the city has a history of investing in itself, and no city that redevelops doesn't. If you have a city that's struggling, like the Rust Belt cities or whatever, unless the city just invests in itself, tries to increase the assessed value, it doesn't happen. No one comes in and saves them, unless they get some sort of Amazon distribution center or something, and that's very, very rare. So I just wanted to give a few examples of what the city's done in the past and how it has worked. I mean, we're very successful as far as investing money and getting a return on it. Maybe the return's not next year, but the return is, there's tertiary return on people coming downtown, and then eventually we get the tax return. So the most important thing that we have available to us, the most important tool in the toolbox, is the 79E program. New Hampshire doesn't provide us with the ability to do a lot of benefits to incentivize. We don't have a lot. We do have this. And this, in and of itself, this program has allowed for the investment of over $26 million in our community, most of it in the downtown area, which probably wouldn't have happened without it. This is called, like, they call it the but for program. It's like, but for this program, this money wouldn't have been invested, because this, 5-year, 7-year commitment by the city is just enough to make these projects pencil out. It's enough to allow for major investment. And then we receive, once that 79E is closed, we receive those taxes at the annual, the realized rate in perpetuity. I mean, it never goes back. It's not like, and they have to abide by the covenants that we install. We just had 4 come off in the last 2 years. We had, Studley's, the Flatiron Building, Hayes Opera Block, which is 2 to 6 North, and 1 Wakefield. Those 4 coming off added an additional $5.72 million to our base assessed value. And those were a number of 7-year and 5-year 79Es. So we're getting into that cycle where they're starting to come off. When I put up the 2 of our major ones, the Scenic Salinger and the Hoffman, when the Scenic Salinger comes off in 29, right now it would provide, 5.3 million. That's the increase. So an additional 5.3 million. In 4 years, when it comes off, that building is going to be far more valuable than that. The same thing with the Hoffman Building. Right now it's over $7 million of increased assessed value that will be realized in 2031, but it'll be much, much more than that. So this program works, and it's one of the few things we do have that we can offer to our developers. And out of it, most of it is, residential development, commercial development. It provides, creates jobs and gives people a place to live. So as that ties into, the investment that we want to make at 161, I'll call it 161 South Main, but it's actually 5 different parcels. It's, as people refer to it as the old Care Pharmacy building. Closed down in 2018, has been vacant since. Consists of the Golix parcel, a single-family parcel, kind of a contractor lay-down parcel, and a 4-unit. It's roughly about, around 3-point-something acres, and it has a really good synergy with what we have there already. We own the land behind it. We own 3 acres behind it that we deeded back in the 80s. So, putting this all together, combining this, gives us something that's, very saleable, very developable. It's already in the downtown commercial district. It's actually the last set of parcels in our downtown commercial. So it has the benefits that go along with that. The Care Pharmacy building it's been flooded. It's essentially a blighted building. And any development that happens on that site, because it's in the downtown commercial, would have to be cozied up to the South Main Street. And so it would be right along the South Main. That's our gateway to downtown. And it would have to have a commercial aspect to the first floor, whatever is developed there. So when we looked at it, the advice that we got from other departments was to combine them, to put these parcels together for a 6.8 acre parcel that has, there's a lot of upland there, so it is developable. We have a general idea what we would like to do. There is nothing confirmed. We know what we want to do with it, and controlling it is very important. Having control of these parcels allows us to do exactly what we did, the Scenic Salinger, we did with the Hoffman, that we can dictate what gets built there. We can tell them what we want there. Whether, if we want to put an affordable component to a major residential development, if we want anything along those lines, they would have a developer agreement with us. So, this is just another part of I see this as a catalyst for the southern part of Main Street. It's close to the hospital. It's the beginning of, South Main. And it'll tie into whatever happens above it. Like we're getting a 55-room hotel down at down at 95 South Main by Cumberland Farms. This with that, I mean, before you know it, you're gonna have infill the length up to the downtown. And I mean, if you wanna, an easy way to see what your investment in the city does is like come downtown on a Friday or Saturday night. I mean, 5 years ago, it was dead. I mean, you had the Rev, you had whatever. Now it's packed. There's waiting lines at Cinco's, the Lounge, at the Rev, Mai Tai's down there. It's very vibrant, very alive. And that is because, councils, the 3 or 4 councils before got the Scenic, got the Salinger. And then council after that, they got the Hoffman. So, having that vision of the future, of what we can be and what we've already become. I mean, I talk to people all the time from away, and they come up and they say, wow, they can't believe it. And, and we just continue to grow. And in another way, the casino, which has been very successful, nothing we had anything to do with. There's no 79Es, there's no investment by the city out there. But they came here because of what we did downtown. They came here because they saw the growth. They came here because they saw that the population was the second fastest growing community in the state. So with all that in mind, I mean, that's kind of what drove my thought process when advising the council to enter into this deal. And, certainly, this is just one rendering that a developer, happened to send to me, that, we could have this there, and that would be kind of right up on the street, and that's a lot better than what's there now. And that's generally what it comes down to. It's like, what do you want? What do you, what do we need? What do we want? What's the alternative? In a market failure situation where, it's been on the market for 3.5 years, we're in a perfect position to make something happen. So I'm going to turn this over to Director Sullivan now, who's got a few more slides to go through.
Hi, Mark Sullivan, Director of Finance. So I wanted to go over a little bit the unassigned fund balance, because this is the single largest ask for use of unassigned fund balance for a economic development project. It is substantial. We need to review our unassigned fund balances and understand what we use unassigned fund balance for. And typically, we use unassigned fund balance to offset the property taxes during budget adoption. Every year for many, many, many years, we've been using significant amounts of unassigned fund balance to stabilize that tax rate. We use unassigned fund balance for supplemental capital project appropriations of all various types and situations. And every time we use the unassigned fund balance for a capital project, and when I say capital project, I'm talking about public buildings, public works, those kind of things, it keeps it from being added to the amount to be raised by taxes. We also invest these proceeds that we have. We're only allowed to invest the dollars in safe securities, CDs, liquid investment accounts, money markets. I believe we can do treasuries, though the city of Rochester has never done that. So we're limited in what we can invest it in, but we do invest that, and we move these investments around, and we generate investment income that is used as a non-property tax revenue every budget cycle. And we also do it for economic development projects, such as Mr. Scala's explained, and there's a track record and a history of that working. So those are typically the categories that we use it for. How do you advance? Here's another summary of, it's not just the unassigned fund balance that we use during the adopted budget process. We also have the tax cap. And what this is, I'm demonstrating here is, we've done remarkably well by putting tax cap surplus or leaving tax cap surplus every adopted budget cycle, and using unassigned fund balance, and investing budgetary amounts for investment income. And if you look at the last 5 years, there's almost $10 million in tax cap surplus that wasn't used in the budget and wasn't made the amount to be raised by property taxes. We've used use of unassigned fund balance over that same period of 20 million, 2 million in investments. So you can see overall, it's a large number, and what it's doing is it's really keeping the amount to be raised by taxes stable. And we use unassigned fund balance every year for that purpose. And it's a very productive way to use the unassigned fund balance to make sure that we don't have a situation where we need a tax cap override. And as Mr. Scala explained, and he demonstrated, using unassigned fund balance for economic projects, it creates new assessed values. And then when you create new assessed values, you use that as it increases the net assessed value amount, which is the denominator, which the amount to be raised by taxes is the numerator, and it can have a stabilizing and even a lowering effect on the tax rate. Here's a summary of where we stand now at fiscal year 24 of the unassigned fund balance. We ended on our 535 reporting to the state of New Hampshire at 29 million. We have a FY24 audit adjustment on our, and I mentioned this at the recent Finance Committee meeting, of a $5 million non-spendable hold on our unassigned fund balance, and that's primarily due to some cash deficit problems that the water and sewer fund are experiencing. We're working with the auditors on a solution to that. We're also going to be working with staff and the Utility Advisory Board and probably the council as well, because that's something we don't want to see on our unassigned fund balance long-term. Hopefully it's a short-term issue that we can remedy quickly. So once we allocate that, we have an available fund balance of about 24 million. Though we do have to keep in mind that we committed 7.9 million in the FY25 budget, which, depending on how the actual revenues come in versus the actual expenses for both city and school side, we may not need that large amount at the end of the year to balance the budgets out. So essentially what I'm saying here is that after we account for all those things, there's about a net available fund balance that I would be comfortable as the finance director saying this can be utilized for whatever projects the council may decide on. And that leaves us about 12% range, which the fund balance policy is 8 to 17% of our combined operating expenses for both city and school. So we're still in good shape. This project, as I mentioned earlier, it is a large ask, but considering what the development opportunities are, as Mr. Scholar explained, to have that return in a couple of years, $30 million in assessed value potentially, when you look at it that way, and we recover some of that expenses, we could be generating, $500,000 a year in new tax revenues from basically a blighted location. Though it does put a lot of pressure on staff to perform a proper request for proposal, to do very thorough due diligence, to pick whoever we're going to enter into a partnership with under a development agreement. We have to vet whoever the final selection might be very, very carefully. I think we can do it. There's a track record of doing that so. I think in the end, this has the potential to be a very, very exciting project at the end, as Mr. Scala had explained. So if there's any questions on any of the unassigned fund balance, if not, I'll just turn it back over to Mr. Scala.
Counselors, are you done?
I'm
Director?
all set, yeah. Any questions, please?
Counselor Fontenot.
Just in advance, I guess, a couple of the concerns that I have heard, and I'm sure we'll hear more this evening, but a couple of them are, you have an operating business there, Golix Ice Cream, which is a pretty popular and pretty well-established operating business. And so some of the comments are, you know, why would the city want to put someone like that out of business and take their property? And I don't think that's the intent, but I thought maybe you can address that too.
I've had several conversations with Mr. Golick about that. He's well aware that we will become his new landlord. And, I mean, the purchase of all the properties made sense. You know, just buying 2 and having 3 that weren't associated with us, didn't make sense. I mean, there are currently no plans to put Mr. Golick out of business. He's well aware that, that it's always a distinct possibility depending on what the design is that comes there. But we've also committed to, if that indeed happened, we would work very hard to find him a location, maybe even in the new building, if that's something he chose to do. I mean, that wouldn't be a problem. But I mean, certainly the goal is not to put him, he's a valuable part of our downtown business fabric. So.
Thank you. And one more follow-up, and the other concern is that, okay, it's great that we may be building some new housing and offering new housing to new folks, but what does it do for the existing residents? What does it do for, that's what people are gonna look at. Well, how does this help me? I live in a house over in East Rochester.
Yeah.
How does this help me by having the city buy that and develop that property?
Well, it's almost kind of the theme of this, the assessed value. I mean, creating something worth millions and millions spreads that amount to be raised by taxes out over a larger pool, which keeps taxes, manageable. It's all about, making sure that we're very good at budgeting. I mean, I've noticed that since I've been here at the city, very good at but the more that you have, the more you're assessed at, the lower, it'll be. So, I mean, it's all about assessed value, and then the benefits, the community benefits of getting folks in town. I mean, we need young families, we need all of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from counselors? A couple questions for me, if everybody's all set. How long has the Care Pharmacy building been vacant?
May 29th, 2018.
7 years? Okay. And just to add on to what Councilor Fontenot said, there's a river behind there too also. Is there wetlands? Or is
Yes.
it, how much is buildable? How much of that land is buildable?
All the buildings back there, the Golix building, the single family, they all have their LOMAs. They all have their letter of map adjustment. They are all above the floodplain. So if you go back to our property, it depends if you use the 100-year flood or the 500-year flood. 500-year flood goes up pretty high, but the 100-year flood, it allows a lot of buildable upland. And then space for parking lot, which they don't care if it's in the floodplain. And the way it shakes out is traditional lenders, if you're in a floodplain, you just have to get flood insurance. I mean, it doesn't kill deals. It doesn't, it's just an additional cost.
Okay, and I think you touched on this, and I just want to add again to what Councilor Fontenot said, because I think it's a valid point. How does it benefit the community? Obviously, the tax revenue, the investment that will make this $3 million, what this project will turn into many more millions than that in tax revenue down the road. But also, it's the pride in the community. I'm sure all the councilors here are hearing this from fellow residents in this city, how you mentioned Friday or Saturday. You drive down tonight. You came in here tonight. South Main Street's packed. That's new. So I hear it all the time. There's a lot of pride in the community. So this, to me, is the downtown anchor of the south end of the city. So when you're coming into the city from Dover or Somersworth area, that's what you're going to see now when you come into the city once this is built. So it's a pride factor in there, too, to be something to be proud of your community, to have a functioning, vibrant downtown.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else? City manager.
Director Scala, could you please explain the process that would be implemented for addressing items such as traffic or the intersection there and those types of considerations, and what that would look like further down the line in the process?
Sure. Any major development there will require all studies, traffic studies, traffic flows, water, sewer. Any of those things that are concerns will be studied and looked at, and we'll receive a report. The fact that there is already a controlled intersection there at one end is very beneficial. It means we don't have to really probably add lights or anything like that. But it'll all be sent out. Someone will look at it, and that's on the developer to give us the traffic study and the other reports or third-party reviews that are required.
Thank you. Councilor Horn.
In regards to the river that goes in behind that, this is Zone A. Could you explain what Zone A actually means, and will we need permission from the state to do any changing of the flow of the river?
We do have a planning director
We have our
here. We're
planning
gonna put him on
director
the
here that
spot.
can probably answer that better than I.
Question there, Councilor Horn.
But I believe it's a designation from someone. Is it FEMA?
Seth Creighton, Planning and Development Director. So the question is there's a brook that runs behind these properties. And yes, there is a FEMA, it's a federal flood zone that goes with it. Every property has a flood zone designation to it. There's A through X. There's a bunch of letters that are missing. This is a flood zone A. What that means is that there's restrictions on what type of development you can put in there. Are you restricted from putting fill in that area? And if you do build in it, there's different building codes that both we review at the local municipal level, and then there's a federal sign off saying, yes, this structure in this location is okay. So it's a protected area, but there's ways to build in it. Does that answer the question?
Yes, that answers. Can I ask one more
Sure,
question?
follow
on
up?
that?
Sure, you may.
In your experience, have you seen the people saying, no, this isn't a good place to have it? Or is it just, we have to move the building, or not move the building, but put the buildings further away from the brook?
So I've seen it both ways. Most of our downtown and all of the downtowns, I would say in New England, built on the river, they're in flood zones. So all of the redevelopment that we're all used to as all these old mill buildings as they come back on or are imagined as living space, those are in flood zones. Could you build that now today? No, probably not as easy. But because there's existing structures like the Care Pharmacy building, half of it's in a flood zone. So to rebuild and use that footprint in that same location, but to bring it to higher standards, safety standards as of today's. So I guess because there is a structure there and there's been development within these zones before in this exact location, we're a step ahead of the game. Now, if this was all natural area and we were looking to develop it from scratch, it's a bigger hurdle to get over. But there's benefits that are being structures and us looking at redeveloping or using that location for new development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your answer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it. Okay, thank you very much, Councilor. Some good questions here. We'll turn it over to the public. Just come up and state your name and address, and let us know how you feel about this project.
My name is Jerry Vermette. I live on Hansonville Road in Gonick. I also represent the Veterans for Veterans group that gets together at the community center. We also have a Facebook page, and evidently it's gone further than we think. When I got home today, I got an email from Germany.
Sir, this is...
The country.
Sir, I'm sorry. This is not the public input part yet? Do you want to talk about veterans? Or do you want to...
I thought you said this was the public was taking.
Yeah, it's a public hearing on the project we just discussed, Care Pharmacy. If you have any thoughts on Care Pharmacy, please let us know, but the public input will come later on in the agenda.
Okay, then I will sit back down.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. Tom Kaczynski, Whitehall Road, and also state representative for District 5. I've seen some difference in the public hearings in the last few years, but this is something I've never seen in my life. You have about 35 minutes of public employees giving their spiel here on all the benefits of this grand project. I never saw anything. Now, I hope you're not going to have them back up after, because if they get a second dib at this, I would like one too, you know? I mean, this is highly unusual. This is supposed to be a public hearing. And I rise in opposition to this spending. The United States was built on the principle of free market capitalism. And Rochester is so far from that these days, it's unbelievable. I used to joke about Rochester Realty, about you guys buying and selling properties. And it's getting scary now. You got bureaucrats and elected officials playing realtor here, because that's all it is. It's our money and your ideas, and you're going places. I've seen this before. When I lived in Connecticut, the government was in charge of urban renewal. Happened to be one reason why we had to move our business in New Haven. And it was a total government failure. And here we go again. This is Soviet-style central planning. And I hear this is about control. I hear about you want to control the Salinger block. Maybe you should add that you paid, that they got $700,000 plus in benefits there to go in. All these goodies that were given to these various developers here. The government decides what goes where. And you got novice realtors that really, there's no risk involved here. You buy properties, you sell them for less. You can never really know the total cost of one of these deals here, and that's government. I'd like to know the people involved here, maybe they ought to submit a resume of their successes in the private sector with realty, because we're talking some big bucks here, you know? To have people that don't have this experience it's not fair to taxpayers. It's non-existent, and these are theories. Oh, we're going to improve this. This is going to be worth this much. We're going to have all these businesses. I see a lot of empty, vacant storefronts downtown. Free market is the answer, and the prices adjust to what the real value is. Now, this property, I don't know what it's worth. Is it worth 3.36? Maybe it's worth $1.5 million. Maybe it's worth $5 million. If I was the owner, I could tell you right now, I'd be advertising it and getting the most exposure for my property to see what it's really worth, because I want every buck I could get. The demand's going to determine. And the consumers vote every day in the free market and establish pricing on things. And it beats central planning. I don't know. To me, the chances of a bureaucrat working 37.5 hours making the correct decision is very slim. And you got no skin in the game when it comes down to it. So, the source of money, well, in our little spiel here to sell this deal, at least I found out, I thought it was maybe 30 million or 32 million in the undesignated fund balance. I've been talking about this for some years, and this is a curse. It's a slush fund. It's an infamous slush fund. And we're told it's not cash. It's not actually cash. Well, it's not this or that. Well, what's this 3.36 million? What are you throwing monopoly money out there? What is it, coconuts? Crying out loud. We've been overtaxed for years, and you're building this up one way or the other. We're seeing how you got investments, interest being made on our money. It just doesn't make sense. You ought to give it back. I mean, even with what's said there, 16 million, that little bit of 16 million, You could probably give back $1,000 to each taxpayer in town. You know, in a world where 60%, this country, 60% of the people can't come up with $600 on short notice. And you're accumulating their money, getting interest on it so you could get around the tax cap. You know, I've been watching these meetings. I was a little busy with the legislature. I see these folks from the mobile homes, and these people are hurting. They got banged on these assessments, and mobile homes are a little different because if you have an old one, you can't get a mortgage on these things. So it's a whole different game here. So I wonder how they feel when they find out you got 16 million sitting there, and you're telling them the taxes are going up. I mean, you really ought to think about this. You know, really, no offense against anybody, but you can't really trust politicians with wads of money just sitting there, because it gets spent. Now, Rochester Realty, which you're running here, has got a little record now. We heard some of it, but not all of it. These developer subsidies, these 79Es and the TIFs are giveaways. And you brag about the new construction, but for some reason, there's a lot of taxes that get deferred. We don't see it. Oh, we're going to make it back in 15 years. We're going to make it back in 7 years. No, mathematically, you can't. That money's gone. You'll never make it back. Taxpayers are getting screwed with this deal, in my opinion. So the apartments are the answer? We got all these new ones downtown here. So again, I look at the Union Street parking lot. There's 10 empty spaces on a Sunday morning. So basically, one can assume that it's the different apartments there, the 3 big ones subsidized with the 79Es, filling up the parking lot. So what's the answer? Oh, our economic development answer is to lease a property for $200,000 a year and then pave it for a problem that you created by giving free parking to people that you gave a 9-year subsidy to. Now that's a sweetheart deal in my view. That Hoffman building, the figures were a little different than I remembered, but say they were. You sold it for $100,000 less. So they're paying taxes on the $225,000 for that building. And those rents aren't getting given away. I mean, really, what a deal. The Granite Ridge Phase 2. So you change the zoning to residential. Now it's still a TIF. So they got the generous benefits of all the site work getting done by us. Millions and millions, $6-7 million. But the difference between this and Phase 1, you got a lot of apartments, and these people are going to demand services. You're going to have police and fire, and even with a low fertility rate, the school system is definitely going to see an upward trend. So the taxes, they don't pay taxes into the general fund for what, 15 years at least. So do these sound like good deals? Are these good for the Rochester taxpayers? I urge the council to refuse this deal. You don't have to be lackeys for amateur developers here. Let the free market rule. The development should occur naturally, as needed, and at the proper price levels without government infusions of cash. But when we say government, we're talking taxpayer money. It's our money. So where does it end? While you're at it, you could give back this undesignated fund balance to the people who own it. Give it back to the taxpayers, and you'll rid the politicians of temptation at the same time. It'll also show you're good stewards of our money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shawnee McGowan. I'm at Gear Road. What I originally wrote, I'm gonna tweak a little bit based on the presentation that we saw. So I'm here tonight because I want you all to strongly consider opposing buying this property. I believe that the city could put this money to much better use. I wrote up some examples, but kind of seeing where, what you can use the unreserved funds for. I'm gonna alter them a little bit. So my understanding is that you could use it for capital improvement projects for public works, adding sidewalks or repaving more roads. And I know I've talked to some of you and emailed some of you over the past few years about a section on Hansonville Road that desperately needs a sidewalk. There are various things within our school district that maybe you could help support. We are in the process of building a new elementary school, Salmon Falls School, and at one point, there was an addition on it that was removed because of budgetary reasons, but with, a growing population, as was stated tonight, maybe consider being proactive and helping out with that. Or even the high school athletic complex upgrade that the school district is looking to undertake, helping fund that as well, since the city also uses it. I know a lot of these examples I give are related to our schools, but as a taxpayer, a parent, a former educator in our school district, and a current school board member, my personal opinion is that the schools desperately could use this money in various capital improvement projects. I had a whole spiel about using it for school funding for lunch and breakfast, but that would not fit under that, so I'm going to nix that part. Let's see. So I really hope that you consider using the funds for our children in the school district. It would benefit them a lot more greatly than building what you say could be affordable housing when the condos behind my house are $2,500 a month. That's not affordable for the average person in Rochester. So I would really like you to consider using these funds in a different way than this current project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mama. Yeah, we are.
Hi, Carol Petrosevich, Ward 4. I actually am opposing this as well. Seeing the numbers, that was a really great presentation, because what it taught me was that we really are a real estate city, and I don't want that to be. I have a great realtor that I used when I moved into the town, and I want to keep our realtors in business. I don't want the city to be a realtor. And when we have the unassigned fund balances, what that means is just like having money in your pocket. Ooh, what can I spend it on? What can I spend it on? We don't want that because that's our taxpayer money. So I do recommend giving it back. Obviously, it makes sense to have a little bit of money in unassigned fund balances if there's some emergency in the city. That's good planning. But becoming a realtor is not good planning. That we, the taxpayers, do not want to hire you for that. But we would like those monies back because that $1,000 per se, I don't really know what the number comes out to, would make a big difference in our economy right now. And down the road, when we get this money back from the other TIFs and the other 79Es that we currently have on the books that the presentation showed us, we can reevaluate and we can say, is it time to do maybe another 79E? And maybe at that time that is. But I always believe in the private market because that's when the competition is the best. And that's when the people fight for the hardest for the best project that will serve the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Rice, 10 Rod Road. The Callahan Shuffle. Good evening. let's take a stroll through what I like to call the Callahan Shuffle. A routine so well rehearsed, it should be nominated for an Emmy Award. Let's imagine the first scene. It is titled, Let's Talk About the Rochester Realty Trust. This little-known phantom entity somehow keeps popping up and acquiring properties around downtown with almost zero transparency. Look at the second scene, laying out the 5 W's. The who, the what, the where, the when, the why. Who's on the trust? Who's benefiting? What is this for? When will it happen? Why? How are these acquisitions being coordinated with city initiatives? When and why? We don't know, because no one tells us. I did send a 91A request yesterday, and it was sent to Catherine. Got a curt response back to send it to a different email address. So that's what I did. To learn more about the purchase of the Care Pharmacy and abutting properties. And anybody who knows me, I usually do a little research. Might not agree with me, but I don't care. The request reads, and I quote, I would like to request all information regarding the proposed purchase of the Care Pharmacy properties, including but not limited to the purchase and sales, market analysis, building out proposals, and/or analysis. As the public hearing is Tuesday evening, time is of the essence, and I would prefer to receive all information electronically. Thank you, Susan Rice, resident citizen, voter of Rochester, New Hampshire, USA. Got the response back about 9:45 this morning. And it reads, and I quote, hello, Susan. In response to your 91A request for a market analysis, build-out proposals, and/or analysis for the Care Pharmacy property, no such governmental records exist for these items. But yet there were slides up on the big TV, and if you have an eye issue like I do, you can't read it. The non-public meeting minutes, oh, wait a second, let me just go back. There's no such governmental records exist for these items. The non-public meeting minutes regarding this property will be on May 6th, City Council agenda with a motion to unseal. However, there are currently no public documents available. If you would like, you can resubmit your 91A request following the May 6th meeting, and we can review again to see what is available at that time. Thank you, with no name attached. And every time a resident asks a question, what happens? We get stonewalled, dodged, or worse, we're dismissed. So on to the second scene, the Callahan Shuffle ethics. I like to call it welfare. And what does that mean? W, withheld from the public. E, exempt from accountability. L, leverage for private gain. F, funds taken from our reserve. A, avoiding long-term transparency. R, reckless with taxpayer trust. And E, enriching others at public expense. Translation, according to my friend Human's dictionary on municipal that he said a few weeks ago, it's otherwise known as mind your own business. The next scene, last June, the city council meeting when the budget was adopted. This was not part of the city's approved operating budget. There was no line item, no detailed explanation in a capital improvement plan, and no clear financial justification made public. Instead, the funds are being drawn from the unassigned fund balance, a reserve account which was intended for emergencies and financial stability for when we go to do bonding. Unless this account may technically avoid triggering the tax cap, but it doesn't make the cost disappear. In fact, it raises a much more troubling question. If the city can spend 3.3 whatever million dollars outside the budget process, what can't it do? Another acronym. It's called fraud. Funds misused, redirected behind closed doors, avoiding the tax cap, unacceptable to taxpayers, and development deals that benefit insiders. The next scene, imagine this. So I know I have a bit of an off sense of humor, but sometimes I like to wander into the future, and mind me, this is only speculation. Connecting the dots. Step 1. The city turns to the unassigned fund balance, the city's favorite slush fund, or what some of my friends like to call is the Cliff Newton cookie jar, for pet projects, developer perks, and short-term political wins, AKA Care Pharmacy. Step number 2. Suddenly there is a trade with the Rochester Housing Authority. The city quietly ends up owning Wyandotte Falls, a property it has had its eye on for years. RHA gets more of what it wants and probably needs, which is housing, and the public is left scratching their heads. Step number 3. The city sells Wyandotte to a developer at a loss because this building is useless, worthless, and deplorable. Step number 4. The same developer applies for a 79E tax break on such property, reducing their tax burden even further. And the taxes are paid on the sales price, which is always lower. We have the history, we have the proof of that. And making sure the public sees next to no return on the land they originally bought and paid for. Step 5. The money from the sale, what little there is, gets funneled into the Rochester Economic Development Fund, a magical little pot of money that doesn't require a lot of public oversight and can be spent however those in charge see fit. Ever try going to the Rochester Economic Development Committee meetings? They're held during the day when most of us are working. It's very difficult to follow them. There is not very much oversight, no transparency, no say from the people footing the bill. Oops, I forgot a step. The city will declare the property now owned by RHA, the Care Pharmacy property, a TIF district. Kiss any tax money goodbye for years and years. Or better yet, rumors swirled that RHA does not want to own property, just manage it. So will we establish the RCC, the Rochester Construction Company, and the RMC, the Rochester Management Company? And all of this is happening while Rochester Realty Trust, you know that phantom partner of the city, sits quietly at the edge of the stage, acquiring properties with next to no scrutiny. What influence does it hold over the city planning, zoning, and development? We ask, and all we get is smoke and mirrors. Rochester Realty Trust quietly accumulates property while our elected officials keep claiming there's no agenda. And one of the last scenes starts to unfold. The people are fed up and are thinking, this is economic strategy? This isn't revitalization, it's privatization with a pretty logo slapped on top. And as always, the taxpayers get stuck with the bill while someone else cashes the check. But we sure know what this is. It's the Callahan Shuffle. Buy low with public money, sell cheap to private friends, give them tax breaks, hide the profits in secretive funds, punish the people who notice, and spin the whole thing as quote-unquote progress. This city isn't being run like a community. It's being run like a closed-loop business enterprise where the insiders get the info, the outsiders get lip service, and the mayor gets to claim it's all quote-unquote for the public good. How many working-class families are seeing the benefits of these decisions? Where is the affordable housing? Where is the community input on multi-million-dollar property swaps? Where is the line item accounting for how much of the unassigned fund balance has been drained for deals we, the public, didn't vote for? So no, I'm not going to shut up and I'm not going to sit down. I'm not going to pretend that selling public land at a loss, giving tax breaks to developers, and biting the receipts in secret funds is something we should applaud. You can spin it any way you want, but the people are catching on. So now here is my encore. We're done dancing to the Callahan Shuffle, where only the mayor gets to be the banker, the developer, and the guy who decides which rules matter. We have a mayor who's mastered the pivot, the smirk, and the well-timed dodge. He slides left, he slides right, spins around a question, and ends up facing the same insiders who already had the questions before the public even heard the question. In my world, that is called a shell game. In the mayor's world, it's called economic development. It's not fiscal responsibility, it's a con. Let me be very clear. This is not economic development. This is not good governance. This is not transparent. It's bait and switch politics. So let's add this up. You don't need a finance degree to see the problem here. Even if every step here is technically legal, it fails the test of transparency. It fails the test of accountability. And it fails the basic principle that major public expenditures should go through a public process, not be quietly pulled from reserve accounts and redirected through quasi-public agencies. What makes this more frustrating is that this was never brought forward as a policy discussion. There was no community input on whether this was the best use of reserve funds, no public forum to compare alternatives, no explanation of how this fits in the city's broader economic development plan. The purchase and sales agreement has already been signed, and I didn't get a copy of that. I started digging through and I found it in the packet. And I don't think that there's an escape clause in this. We're left asking, where is the analysis, where is the leadership, and where is the respect for the taxpayer? This deal also sets a dangerous precedent, undermines public trust, and raises legitimate concerns about fiscal management. I urge this body to slow down, hit the pause button, and bring the public back into the conversation. At a minimum, the city should provide a full accounting of the financial impact of this deal, including if there's ever going to be a 79E and the time frame of such. Release all documentation related to the purchase, transfer, and anticipated sale of these properties. Commit to including future transactions of this size in the public budgeting process where they belong. This isn't about politics, it's about process, and it's about protecting the integrity of public spending. So here is my challenge to this council. Stop using the unassigned fund balance like it's monopoly money. Bring the phantom Rochester Realty Trust into the light. End the practice of secretive land swaps and shady incentives, and stop treating dissenting voices like mine as a problem to be silenced. This is our city, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is not your house. It is not my house. It is the people's house. We've had enough of the smoke and mirrors and the shuffle. You want revitalization? Start by reviving integrity. Start by respecting public input and stop slapping the city's seal on everything shady and telling us it's for our own good. Because at this point, people aren't buying it. And if you did that, I probably would change my attitude and I'd be standing up here and supporting you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Christopher Rice, 10 Rod Road. You know, growing up as a kid, I was never a big fan of fluff. And that was 40 minutes of fluff. I'm more of a jelly guy, grape to be preferred, but I'll eat strawberry if that's the only thing on the table. Good evening, members of the esteemed City Council, City of Rochester. I come before you as a member of this community and someone who takes great pride in Rochester and its future. And I have to say, the lack of the proposal that you saw here tonight, which it was a lack of a proposal, doesn't feel like a thoughtful investment in our city. It feels like a rushed, speculative gamble with taxpayer money.
We're talking about spending nearly $3.4 million. That's before anything else that might come of unassigned fund balance. Money that has been collected from taxpayers beyond what was needed to run our city efficiently. In plain terms, it's the surplus revenue from overtaxation. Took me a number of years to learn that. Thank you, Representative Kaczynski. Instead of giving that money back to the people who earned it, or using it to reduce the burdens we already face, we are considering spending it on a piece of land with a rundown building. No formal plan has been proposed with no clear purpose. I'd like to ask this question. I know I won't get a response, but Mayor Callahan, would you like red or black chips at the casino tonight? I think we could get a better return on investment if you just throw those dice, like you did on opening night, down the crapshoot and win us some money. Let's not forget the building itself. The structure on this property is in poor condition. They alluded to it, that it flooded. It's dilapidated and neglected, and whether the city chooses to demolish it or try to rehabilitate it, either path comes with a significant price tag. Yet these costs are not included in the $3.4 million where you were being asked to spend and approved. That means additional taxpayer money will need to be spent on top of the purchase price, with no estimate, no funding plan, no discussion from the council on what the true total could be. We are being asked to buy a property without knowing how much it will ultimately cost to make it usable, safe, and functional. That is not a responsible way to manage our public funds. Now let's break this down with some common sense. We don't know what the property would even be used for. There are rumors, affordable housing, mixed use, maybe municipal use for all we know, but nothing's set in stone and nothing's concrete. There's been no public process, no vision, no input from anybody who is paying for this project. We are essentially being asked to buy a mystery box with taxpayer money. Several community leaders have reached out to me over the last few days. One called this a gross mistake. They're a former city councilor. Another said, here we go again, Rochester's back in the real estate business, and they're right. We've seen this movie before. A few years ago, St. Elizabeth Seton School was for sale. We purchased it using city funds, and they're gonna bait and switch you here. They're gonna say that these funds came from the Economic Development Fund, when really, I believe 900,000 came from this exact fund, the unassigned fund balance. They moved it just a month after they created the fund to fund the fund, and the city council never put a provision in saying to withdraw any money from the Economic Development Fund, you need to have a public hearing. So guess what they didn't do? They didn't have a public hearing. You guys just voted on it. Here you go buy the building. No public hearing was held on buying St. Elizabeth Seton. That building was purchased, and we were promised that a developer was available, lined up, ready to go, ready for redevelopment, and work would begin quickly. Well, it's been over more than a year, and nothing has happened. No work, no renovation, no project on the horizon. The building sits empty, deteriorating, and almost falling into the river. And the taxpayers are left holding the bag. So now we're being told to trust this process yet again, except this time, we don't even have a plan to point to, not even a hint of one. I've also heard concerns, and I know some of you have too, that because the city has already signed a purchase and sales agreement, there's a sense that this deal must go through. That we're somehow obligated, that the city's own attorney will insist it's too late to turn back now. But let's be clear. The council still has that power and responsibility to say no. This body, you, control the purse strings of the city. If this deal isn't right for the city of Rochester, then it doesn't matter what has been signed. We shouldn't be bullied or pressured into spending millions of taxpayer dollars just to avoid a little legal discomfort. That's not leadership, it's not transparency, and it's certainly not how good government is supposed to work. If we're going in to enter into a purchase and sales agreement, then at the very least, we should be demanding appropriate contingencies, just like a responsible buyer would. That means including clauses that protect the city if certain conditions aren't met, clear title, environmental rehab costs, intended use approvals. These aren't just boilerplate, they're essential safeguards. Right now, it's unclear if any of these protections were negotiated at all. If this agreement moves forward without these kinds of contingency clause, then we've just made a bad deal. We haven't made a bad deal, we made a reckless one. And let's not ignore the city's own history when it comes to real estate. Took some notes during the presentation. The Robbins building, just on the sale price, we took a loss of $40,000. The Hoffman building was $100,000. St. Elizabeth, I'm going to put in the loss column. That's $1.6 million. Yes, $700,000 was ARPA funds, still taxpayer money. That we have just, here you go. That's our history. But time and time again, we have developed a reputation for purchasing properties at top dollar or over top dollar, only to turn around and sell them for a fraction of the price. Often years later, after that sat idle and deteriorated even further, this buy high, sell low approach has cost taxpayers dearly and produced little return. We've seen it with surplus buildings, old schools, and underutilized parcels. It's a pattern, and one that we have the opportunity to break. If a property like this truly has potential, let the private market take that risk, supported by existing incentive programs. The city doesn't need to keep gambling with public funds to prove we're open for business. And it's not just the lack of vision that's the problem, it's the timing. Tonight, the city manager will be presenting her new budget. That's the process to which every dollar should be carefully examined and prioritized. That process should take several weeks of thoughtful, in-depth discussion and revision by you, the members of the City Council. After all that's been exhausted, public comment. And yet, this $3.4 million purchase is fast-tracked before we've even had a chance to assess our financial position for the coming year. That's not responsible planning. That's poor management. And speaking of financial burdens, let's talk about the reality facing residents right now. This year, we're seeing significant increases in our water and sewer rates that comes on top of property taxes that are already too high for many working families and our retirees. And now we're staring down at a budget that I guarantee you I will be back here and say that it is blighted and overinflated, packed with spending while still failing to meet the basic needs of our community. City staff will be asking for more and more and more, but pretty soon the well is going to run dry. But yet somehow we have $3.4 million and we're just itching. It's like that itch on the bottom of your foot and you're wearing a pair of boots and you're driving down the interstate on your motorcycle and you can't get to that itch, but it's there. It is there and you can feel it and you don't know how to itch it. But man, does it itch. That's how you guys feel right now. What's the common sense in that? Before we even think about putting housing or any development on this land, shouldn't we be asking the basic questions about our infrastructure? Can our current water and sewer systems actually support it? Have any of the department heads weighed in on what size the development the land could reasonably handle? Can our roads support the increased traffic? How about our sidewalks? Are they safe, accessible? Do we need new foot traffic paths? What about stormwater and drainage? Are we prepared to handle that environmental impact? We, the citizens who elect you, have not heard any of that. We haven't heard from DPW planning, water, sewer, public safety. We heard a little bit about economic development, but that was more, like I said, fluff. There's been no reports, no impact studies, no analyses. We don't even have an estimate on how much it will cost to demolish or rehabilitate the building currently on this site. That's not how you spend millions of dollars. That's how you make mistakes. Rochester is growing. No one is denying that. And done right, growth can be and is a good thing. But growth without planning, growth without infrastructure, growth without listening to the people, that's not progress. That's chaos. And if you want an example of chaos, look at Route 11. Last few comments I have. When this property is sold, in the Economic Development Fund ordinance that was instituted, it states that all property owned by the city of Rochester that is sold, all that money must go back into the Economic Development Fund. But not the unassigned, you're pulling it from the taxpayers, but you're giving it to the ED fund without a public hearing. So I guess in perpetuity, you can just spend it with whatever carelessness you want. What about the couple residents that are down there right now? There's, I think, an apartment building and the ice cream stand. Where's that rent money gonna go? I guarantee you, Director Scala is gonna be chomping at the bit with you in non-public about authorizing it to go into his fund to pay for some stupid study that the city doesn't need. I'll close out my last few comments. You heard control and dictate in Economic Development's report. Do we really want to live in a dictatorship of Rochester? I thought we lived in a republic of America and the state of New Hampshire. And our motto, who the general just celebrated his birthday the other day, live free or die. There's something to think about. The people of Rochester are not a bottomless, endless pig. We work hard for our money. Good majority of us pay our taxes. And they expect, and I expect you, this city council, to spend our money wisely, with transparency, integrity, and with vision. Until this happens, the answer needs to be no on this proposal. Don't let the attorney pull you into the back room and tell you you are wrong. Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Brigham, Ward 2. I'm actually here also to speak in opposition of the purchase of this. I'm not going to belabor the whole issues. I think they've been well addressed tonight. I agree with the state representative that it shouldn't be done. Since the affordable housing issue was brought up on the screen, I can just say, and you know by my presentation since January, that affordable housing is an issue in the city right now, with the assessments more than tripling on average for the 2,400 people that live in the mobile and manufactured housing community, as well as their taxes more than doubling on average, given a few weeks to pay the bill or the interest starts accruing. So, don't exactly understand as far as why the city would want to put more 79E properties in the city, when obviously it affected the mobile home and manufactured housing community. They'll blame it on revaluation. We haven't done it in 5 years. Well, I've already shown and proved that the sales of manufactured housing came predominantly from 3 mobile home parks, 2 of those which were 55+ communities, which offer very nice amenities, clubhouses, swimming pools, etc. The retirement community, I'm sure, are going to these parks because of the amenities that are offered. They don't exist in the other parks. Another case in point I'd just like to bring up.
Is this related to the Care Pharmacy?
Well, you,
You're related to Care Pharmacy, that's fine. As long as you can tie it into Care Pharmacy, I'm fine.
Well, I was
You can
trying
get
to-
up in public input and talk about this stuff, that's fine. This is specifically Care Pharmacy.
okay. All right, then I oppose, and I'll speak in the public input on the
That's
other.
fine, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have to put my name in here? Anybody else coming up?
Good evening, Human, Ward 6, Ward Clerk in Exile. I agree with a lot of the comments of the previous speaker, so I won't bother repeating them. But I would like to start with a comment from Representative Kaczynski, who has had a theme for several years regarding what he calls the Rochester Realty Trust. And the basic gist of this theme is that Rochester should be a government, not a real estate company. And with that, I agree 100%. But Rochester does have a housing crisis, and there is a lack of affordable housing. And if we're going to be objective, yeah, building more apartments will help to increase the supply and decrease pressures on housing prices. But the problem I have with this proposal is lack of transparency. We have all of these non-public, I call them secret city council meetings. They're non-public, non-meeting sessions that occur behind closed doors. And you guys, I don't know if there's actually a smoke-filled room that you're in, but you work all these shady backroom deals, and the public doesn't have any insight into this until it appears, poof, fully formed from the head of Zeus at a city council meeting like we're seeing tonight. And that really shortchanges the citizens of Rochester. The right to know law, RSA 91A, provides an exception to the public's right to know for real estate deals. And there's a reason for that. It's because when real estate deals are discussed in public, there can be disadvantages incurred to the city in doing that. But it's getting to the point that you guys are using these exemptions to the point of abusing them. And if there's a saying, use it or lose it. There's a corollary to that. Abuse it and you lose it. If you keep abusing the real estate exemption, guess what the state legislature is going to do? They're going to amend the right to know law and say, well, you know what? These municipalities that are abusing the real estate exemption, we're going to take it out. Then what are you going to do? You're going to have to discuss all of your real estate deals in public. And I think you should. The real estate deals that you're doing here in Rochester are kind of like having a garden full of gopher holes. You see a gopher pop up here, and you see a gopher pop up there, and another gopher over here. And you know that all these gopher holes are somehow connected, but you don't ever see the tunnel network that's buried in these secret meetings. I think the public should be able to see what the master plan is. The public should be able to see what's going on, why it's happening, and have some input. So there's a definite lack of transparency here. That's my first problem with this proposal. The second is the source of funding. The source of funding is coming from what Representative Kaczynski calls the slush fund, what Representative Newton calls the cookie jar, and what the accountants on city staff call the unassigned fund balance. It's a fancy-sounding term for extra money, and this is money that, as previous speakers have mentioned, came from the taxpayers. So what we're doing here is we're seeing the confluence of two nefarious city practices all in the same proposal. We're seeing these real estate deals coordinated in smoke-filled back rooms converging with taking money from the cookie jar, all in the same proposal. So this proposal is double plus on good. Thirdly, I'd like to point out that this city didn't always have an economic development department. And when the city passed the ordinance to establish the Economic Development Fund, I came up here and I spoke against it and I made predictions. Now I'm up here tonight saying, I told you so. The Economic Development Department is becoming to the city what the deep state is to the federal government. What we're seeing here is the development of the deep city, and the deep city can only develop in darkness. These swamp creatures, they grow in the dark and they thrive in the muck. And what you're doing here is you're providing a $3.3 million meal to these swamp creatures. So if you want to feed, if you want to nurture the deep city, yeah, go ahead, throw 3.36, so it rounds up to $3.4 million at the swamp. But I think that we should drain the swamp, and we should pull the plug on this real estate deal.
Thank you. Anyone else on the public hearing with the Care Pharmacy purchase? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to any final responses from Director Scala or Mr. Sullivan from Finance.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Nothing? Okay, very good. The public hearing is now closed. Move on to the City Council special meeting. Call that to order. And there's a resolution, and we need to fix it. This is there's a small error. So what I need to do is read the resolution, have a second, then vote on the amendment that was passed out to you today. They all got it, correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, okay. So that's the new amendment. You all should have a hard copy of that. So I'm going to read the resolution by order. Resolution authorizing acceptance and appropriation of the American Rescue Plan Act Victim Services Grant Award for Phase 1 of FY 2026. First reading, consideration for adoption.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, now I need a motion to amend the resolution by replacing the original resolution with the one that's revised in our packets today.
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote on the motion to amend the resolution. All those in, ups, we got somebody remote, so we got to do roll call.
Yes.
I'm sorry, almost didn't catch that.
Councilor Dujafroy?
Yes.
Councilor Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilor Horn?
Yes.
Councilor Walker?
Yes.
Councilor Fontenot?
Yes.
Councilor Credo?
Yes.
Councilor Richardson?
Yes.
Councilor Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor Callahan?
Yes.
And Councilor Herman, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Out of
Motion-
order.
That's good, that's fine. Motion carries. Now, we're voting on the motion as amended. There needs to be a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Sure. Councilor Dujafroy?
Yes.
Councilor Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilor Horn?
Yes.
Councilor Walker?
Yes.
Councilor Herman?
Yes.
Councilor Fontenot?
Yes.
Councilor Credo?
Yes.
Councilor Richardson?
Yes.
Councilor Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor Callahan?
Yes, the motion carries. Close the city council special meeting, is adjourned. Moving on to the council workshop, I call that to order. And public input, come on up, state your name, and can be something related to the budget or anything that's on the agenda. Obviously, we just had a public hearing on Care Pharmacy. So we'll move on from that. And you're limited to 5 minutes in public input.
Good evening, Christopher Rice, 10 Rod Road. I come before you tonight, both as a concerned citizen and a veteran, to address an issue that's been weighing heavily on my heart and the hearts of many in our community. A current state of the Veterans Tax Credit. As many of you know, veterans make and have made the ultimate sacrifice that anybody who serves can truly understand. When a person serves in the military, they sign a blank check to the United States, willing to give up their life, if necessary, to defend the freedoms we all enjoy. It's a commitment that's not taken lightly, and it comes with a price, both during and after their service. Right now, our veterans in the city face the same challenges many of us do, especially in today's economic climate. As inflation rises and the cost of living continues to climb, we should ask ourselves, what are we doing? Are we doing enough to support those who have done so much for us? I believe we can do more. Our current Veterans Tax Credit isn't enough to ease the financial strain many of our veterans are feeling. Raising the tax credit would make a significant difference. This increase would not only help veterans with their household expenses, but it would also serve as a tangible recognition for their sacrifice, showing them that this city has their back. That's why we understand what they're giving up, and we are here to support them. Let's make it clear to our veterans, they are not just part of our history, they are an active, vital part of our community today. They are our fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, neighbors, who continue to contribute in ways large and small. It's our duty to ensure that they don't just receive thanks for their service at the local grocery store, they receive the support they deserve, especially when they need it most. In addition to supporting our veterans, we must also commit to the principle of transparency in our local government. Our community deserves to know how decisions are being made, especially when it comes to how our tax dollars are being spent. Transparency builds trust, and trust is essential if we are to move forward together. When we make decisions, especially ones as important as raising the tax credit for veterans, this process should be open and clear and accessible to all. That way, citizens can understand the reasoning behind the decisions, and we can ensure that we are always working towards the best possible outcomes for everyone. I respectfully urge you, the members of the City Council, to consider raising the tax credit for veterans. It's a step we can take to honor the men and women who have given so much for our freedoms, and to set an example of transparency in how we govern. Second issue I'd like to raise is a concern of mine regarding the management of our city. I've been very vocal and critical about the management of our city, and I find it troubling to see when I was going through the voter rolls, several of our department heads, and I've spoken about this before, who earn sizable salaries here in the city, and they don't even live in the city of Rochester where they serve. Individuals like the city manager, Catherine Ambrose, the new fire chief, Mr. George, and the illustrious city attorney, Terrence O'Rourke, all of whom draw large paychecks from the taxpayers of Rochester, yet they live outside the city of Rochester. As citizens, we deserve to know that the leaders that we have are making decisions and that are requesting significant resources from our community are invested in the very city they govern, help govern. Shouldn't even say govern, because they don't govern anything. They administer. How can we expect our department heads to have a true understanding of our city's needs and challenges if they are not living among us, experiencing what we experience here in Rochester? Do they sit in traffic on Route 11 on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock? How about sitting in the Spalding Turnpike heading southbound when there's a car accident and the whole highway shut down? Do they experience that? I don't think so. It's difficult to accept the idea that we're told to recruit the best talent for these positions, but that same talent refuses to make Rochester their home. If they can't live in what is supposed to be one of the best and upcoming cities in New Hampshire, why should we as residents continue to bear the burden of their enormous paychecks
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
and the high departmental requests they bring forward? We need leaders who are not just managing our city from a distance, but living and investing in it.
you.
Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Appreciate it.
Susan Rice, 10 Rod Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Tonight, I'd like to speak not only as a concerned resident, but as someone who believes the city can and should do more for its veterans. Yes, that was my son who got up and spoke. What you all don't know, the statement that he made was, you all know that he's a veteran, and he's made the statement, quote unquote, signed a blank check. What you don't know is at 16, he came to his parents, me and his father, and wanted to enlist in the Army, and I refused. At 17, I had a master sergeant, retired from the Marine Corps, come knocking on my door and said, Susan, Chris needs to go. Because I'm not happy that he's not going in the Marine Corps, but he's going in the Army, which is what my father had done. Lindsay and I made the trip to Dover to sign that paperwork. And I, in essence, signed my son's life away. It was not an easy decision. When I look at what we offer our veterans, we are the second lowest. We only offer $300 out of a $750 basic veteran exemption. And when you come to a disabled veteran or partially disabled veteran or their spouse, we only offer 50%. There are veterans who are struggling. My husband refuses to put in his application. He goes, somebody else needs it. Let them have it. We do occasionally take and do the vouchers for veterans. But I've seen my husband take one of those vouchers and give it to a veteran who's pulling out the last couple of dollars in his pocket. I've seen my husband put a $5 or $10 bill in a veteran's hand during the farmer's market so that they can finish paying for their bill. $450, what could that potentially buy them? It could buy them medication so that they don't have to split pills to get through the month. It could buy them an extra tank of gas. It could fill their oil tank so that they're not keeping their homes at 50 or 55 degrees. It could provide a few extra meals. I often get up here, and it's not something that I enjoy doing, and speaking about the city budgets and the money that is spent. But this is something, it's fractions of pennies on the dollar to do something for our veterans. We would not have the city that we have, we would not have the state that we have, we would not have the country that we have if it wasn't for these brave men and women. Thank you.
Peter, is Mr. Vermette still here? He was the fellow, he was the veteran that got up first, or did he leave?
I don't know.
I watched him.
He left? Oh, he left. Thank you, Peter.
I'm passing around a form there. Hi, Carol Petrosevich, Ward 4. Here tonight to give you a gift of continuing education. On Thursday, May 1st at 8:30, you're invited to a Zoom into a live structural constitution class hosted by Utah State Legislator Ken Ivory. He's willing to share his time and talents with you. He'll be streaming live from the Utah State Capitol building. Why? Because he's found the same situation in all 50 states. Every elected position has zero training once elected on both constitutions for which the elected positions require oaths to uphold. He understands that we, the people, have failed our elected counterparts. We hire you, then we walk away. We never give you the support you need to succeed in your position. This course empowers you to be confident in the constitutional checks and balances that are in each republic. In New Hampshire, we expect that each elected and in turn appointed public servant be Part 1, Article 38, a virtuous statesman. Yet we elect you, and then we walk away for 2 years. Never do we come alongside you to offer you support in the position we hired you to fill. This course is for not only you, city councilman, but for every Rochester City employee. As each employee was hired by me through your participation, of course. In other words, my taxes fund each employee, and therefore they deserve the support just like you do. This course will empower you to succeed in any position, elected or appointed, or city worker. The fundamentals are the same, no matter the position of service you hold. This course explains structure, not politics, which is why this is appropriate for our city. It's nonpartisan. This course is also for the public. We, the people, need to know how we can support you, our hired help. This course gives action steps above voting every 2 years. We want you to succeed and be fruitful in your positions. We want retention. Providing you support equals happy, successful employees. Everyone should register at igovern.us for this 6-week course starting May 1st with class time beginning at 8:30 p.m. in our time zone. City Manager, please extend this invitation to all Rochester City employees. And continuing education makes a huge difference in any position. In this example, your entire outlook will be refocused, thus giving you confidence in your current role to streamline your decision-making and your daily service. Why do we need to make the effort for continuing education? Thomas Paine explains, those who expect to reap blessings of freedom must, like men, undergo the fatigues of supporting it. I look forward to supporting you and seeing you in this class. I just want to also echo, please support our veterans. Our veterans have given their lives and their service for us. It's bad enough that we take them in and shoot them up with all kinds of vaccinations, with every kind of test there is, and then we say, go stand on our front lines and defend everybody. We need to support them in any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Brigham, 66 Royal Crest. I'll pick up from where I guess I left off on the affordable housing issue. So I just want to share a little story as far as what had happened with us in relationship. For those that don't know, I am the president and chairman of the board of Royal Crest. It's Hideaway Village Cooperative is the corporation's name that owns Royal Crest Mobile Home Park on Lowell Street. It wasn't that many years ago when the state required us, or the city actually required us through state mandate to put in backflow devices. We did that at a cost of over $20,000 just to find out that each check valve reduced the PSI of our water pressure by 5 PSI. So we went from 21 to 24 down to 13 PSI. Had a fight with the city. I actually had a fight with the city. They said, we're going to shut your water off if you don't comply. They were even forced us to, they wanted us to become our own public works department where I had to have to do monthly requests on the water system. I ended up writing to the state and got an exemption from the Department of Environmental Services because the city just said the state requires it. Just like our state requires the assessments, the revaluations every 5 years. I've already proven about the 3 other parks that I mentioned earlier, that they controlled the market, and that market was influenced by the reassessed value for the entire mobile home community. Now I'm working with a coalition of folks from the Mobile Home Owners and Tenants Association of New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund, state reps, all the leaders of every single co-op for manufactured housing community, to go up to the state level to see some change because the city says they're tied by the current RSAs that the state issues. So I'm in the works of doing all that. Much more work to be done. I'll be reaching out to Councilor Walker as well as the state rep that spoke earlier. But just want to let you know that these are some of the things that are happening, and the affordable housing issue with 79E properties are not helping. I would think full transparency of the cost associated with the purchase of these properties, the rehab, vice the tax breaks and benefits should be publicly disclosed to all residents so they understand where the money's really going. I understand the developers should make a profit cap over all costs associated, or they're just not going to come here. But I think there should be full transparency on that. So that's basically all I have, other than I fully support the increase of the veterans tax exemption, and it shouldn't be delayed 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It should be put into place immediately. Thank you.
Okay, hearing another public input, I close the public input and I move to communications from our city manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. You have 2 online public input submissions this evening. The first is from Rhonda Linton. and it is titled Continued Misuse of Rotary. And the second is from Brian Landry, and it's titled Colonial Pines Sewer Project. Moving on to the city manager's report. Tonight, I have the FY26 budget presentation. Councilor DeJoffroy, can you see that okay?
Not yet.
Yes? Okay, great. Okay, well, we'll get started then. Mr. Mayor and
Sorry,
City
just
Council.
To clarify, I said not yet.
Oh,
It's
not yet.
visible for
I'm
me.
sorry.
All right, hold us up there, Councilor DeJoffroy.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll wait for the camera to switch.
Got it now, thank you.
Is the monitor over here working now too? No?
That one?
I think he's booting him up.
No? Okay. I wonder, can we tilt this one maybe a little bit? Would that be helpful?
Is that one on?
Yes? Okay. All right, Mr. Mayor and City Council, tonight I present to you my proposed fiscal year 2026 operating budget and proposed fiscal year 2026 capital improvements budget. The school board's proposed budgets are represented on these slides as well, and both the city and schools budget comply with the tax cap provisions as stipulated in the city charter and ordinances. I am proposing this meeting schedule following tonight's presentation for the FY26 budget process. At the May 6th regular meeting, the budget resolutions will have their first reading and will be referred to public hearings. The school will also present their budgets that same evening. We will continue the practice of a budget retreat to be held on May 9th. This will be located here in council chambers at 9 a.m., where there will be presentations from our departments, public input, and council questions and deliberations. May 13th will be a committee of the whole session for budget deliberations and adjustments. The public hearings and another committee of the whole session are scheduled for the May 20th council workshop, and June 3rd is our target date for budget adoption. We are leaving 3 additional dates available in June in the event that more time is required, and you can see those there below. 3 budget books are being distributed tonight in the same format as prior years. Electronic copies of these budget books and a copy of tonight's presentation will also be posted on the city's website. The O&M budget book identifies all city departments' operating and maintenance budgets. The I&O book identifies all department requests for new positions, upgrades, and various projects. I&O books represent both what was included and excluded in the proposed budget. The CIP book identifies all projects incorporated into our 6-year CIP plan. While it is a 6-year plan that you will see in the booklet, the projects for FY 2026 are the only projects included in the proposed FY 26 budget. Within the CIP book, each project has a priority description, you'll notice, and those fields reflect the prioritization by the departments and not the CIP committee's rankings, which can be found in the report posted on the city's website on their page. In developing the proposed budget, I limited departments to no more than a 3% operating and maintenance budgetary increase over the current fiscal year, exclusive of salary and benefits. Any increases that exceeded the 3% and any new, expanded, or reclassified positions required the submission of an issues and options or I&O request. In the I&O book, the first 2 pages are a summary of the 23 issues and options requests that I received, totaling $1,526,719. That summary identifies the 13 that I included, totaling $586,320, and the 10 that I excluded from my proposed budget, totaling $940,399. Each project is detailed starting on page 3, and each department will speak to their issues and options submissions at the upcoming budget retreat. These are the issues and options included in my proposed budget. You will see in the coming slides that the tax cap this year was more restrictive than last year. And as always, a lot of work and thought went into determining what we really needed to include for next year. Not all of the included INOs are positions. For example, the funding that was included for police body-worn cameras and police tasers. Others are more administrative in nature, such as the cost associated with converting the police department's crime analyst from a consulting role to a city position, per diem funding as part of succession and operational planning for an upcoming retirement in DPW, or the conversion of an existing position in the tax office to another classification. Others involve reinstating former positions that are currently inactive, such as the water treatment chief operator and welfare intake worker. And a few are new, which are in response to growth, as well as increases in demands for city services. I believe some of you were wondering if I would bring back the Chief Community Development Officer position this year. From a budgetary perspective and the impact on our taxpayers, I could not see bringing forward 2 community development positions this year, so I prioritized the electrical inspector position for FY26 and included it at half a year. This position was presented as part of my city manager reorganization plan in the fall of 2023 based upon demands for services and would have a significant impact on operational efficiency and customer experience. More discussions and presentations on all of this year's INOs are to come at the retreat in May. The city's tax cap limits the total amount we may raise through property taxes, and this slide explains how the tax cap is generated annually per the city's charter and general ordinances. It starts with the current fiscal year's total tax effort and is then adjusted by adding net new construction, which is the total dollar value of building permits less the total dollar value of demolition permits. The second adjusting factor is to add CPI, which is the inflation rate over the prior year and based upon the National Consumer Price Index Urban. Adding these 2 factors to the tax effort then generates the allowable tax effort, an amount we can increase property taxation by under the cap. Here we have the tax cap calculation populated with FY26 values. More details on this calculation can be found at the beginning of the O&M budget book. You'll see the FY25 tax effort at the top there is $76,104,899. Net new construction is $1,202,630, which is 1.58%. CPI is $2,245,095, which is 2.95%. And the total tax effort, which represents an increase allowed under the cap of 4% as compared to, would be a 5% increase, is $79,552,624. And you'll see that that amount equates to $3,444,725 as allowable increase. The property tax cap adjustment is demonstrated here, broken down between the allocations for the city and county and the schools. As I mentioned previously, the proposed budgets all meet the stipulations of the tax cap. My proposed budget for city and county is under the tax cap by $176,260. And the school board's approved budget is below the cap by $161,020, leaving a total of $337,280 below the tax cap. This chart demonstrates the proposed FY26 budget compared to the current fiscal year's budget and presents a percent change on an annual basis. You'll see that city operations represent a 2.35% increase change over FY25, and school operations are 4.9% increase. County taxes have a slight decrease at a decrease of 0.40%. Enterprise and special revenue funds have a significant decrease at 8.41%. And veterans credits and overlay is an increase of 0.76%. The FY26 proposed appropriation summary total is $160,068,447, or 1.54% increase. This summary reflects the enterprise and special revenue funds appropriations, which you can see decreased by 8.41% and do not impact the tax cap. This slide contains a summary of general fund year-over-year changes between the current budget and proposed fiscal year budget. For city operations, are proposed for FY26 at $38,907,523, which is a 5.98% change. County taxes are $8,730,000, which again was a 0.40% decrease. Debt service is at $4,618,112, which is an 8.96% decrease. Capital and other transfers is another decrease of 16.84%, coming in at $3,294,782. Tax overlay is level funded at $450,000, and veterans credits is proposed at $737,925, which is a $9,000 increase or 1.23%. This leaves the city's overall percent change over FY26 at $1,047,606, or 1.88%. This includes the substantial decrease in capital and other transfers, since we significantly decreased the FY26 capital budget in the proposed budget. The school's FY26 proposed budget is $78,455,379, which is a 4.9% increase. At the bottom there, you'll see the overall net budgetary increase of the combination of city and school, which is $135,193,721, which is 3.61%, and is essentially your net budgetary increase or bottom line increase. This chart breaks down the city's general fund revenue sources between property taxes and the larger non-property tax revenue sources. The numbers can be a little bit harder to see, so I'll read them off there for you. Property taxes make up more than half at 56.06%. Motor vehicle permits are 10.54%. Host community fees are 7.54%. New Hampshire rooms and meals are 5.84%. General fund unassigned fund balance is 11.07%, and all other sources are 8.95%. School revenue sources are demonstrated here by the percentages that support the school portion of the budget. Property taxes and state revenues comprise the majority of this revenue at 60.01%, followed by state revenues at 34.31%. Federal revenues are 0.75%, host community fees are 1.12%, and tuition and other sources is 3.81%. The school department will present at the May 6th regular meeting with more details on the school board's approved budget that night. Proposed budget tax rate impacts are estimated here and broken down by each portion of the estimated tax rate. The proposed fiscal year 2026 budgets result in an estimated overall tax rate increase of 67 cents. So as proposed, the budget is estimated to be less than a $1 increase on the tax rate. This slide demonstrates a summary of year-over-year changes in enterprise and special revenue funds between the current budget and proposed FY26 budget. You'll see the FY26 proposed for these funds is $24,874,726, which is a 8.41% decrease. The all totals row at the bottom is the total of the enterprise and special revenue fund appropriations you see here, plus the general fund appropriations from the earlier slide, which contains both city and school. That proposed amount is $160,068,447, which is $2,428,682 over FY25 and a 1.54% increase. And finally, we have capital budgets. The FY26 Capital Improvements Program was reviewed again this year by the new Capital Improvements Program Committee. The process was slightly revised this year in response to feedback from the first year and resulted in a ranking report that informed my proposed CIP budget. That report can be found on our website on the committee's page. you'll see that the FY26 proposed amount is $34,731,602, which is a $26,015,812 decrease over the prior year. In closing, the City of Rochester has continued to maintain its sound fiscal health without a loss of services and without significant increases in property taxes over many budget cycles now. The proposed fiscal year 2026 budget contained herein continues this trend. I'm looking forward to working with you, city and school staff, and the citizens of Rochester for another year of change, challenge, and opportunity. And on behalf of all city departments, we look forward to working with the City Council to review the fiscal year 2026 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to communications from the mayor. Just a quick few things. I have some proclamations. Before I do that, I want to congratulate Lone Oak Ice Cream. They have a place in Rochester on Milton Road, and also a place in Rye. They were voted the best ice cream in actually New Hampshire and in Southern Maine by the Foster's survey they did. Congratulations to them. Hope for Now, that's a shelter, family shelter, homeless shelter that we supported with opera funds last year. I just learned today from the executive director that out of this entire state, they were rated number 2 for income levels of residents that left that place. So that's a great sign of showing that they found some income, they found a job, and they're out on their own. So number 2 in the entire state. And if you remember, that was money well spent on this council did by giving that to that group. If you remember, they were almost on the way out, and within a month of us giving those funds, they were back up to a full staff. So great job by CAP, which runs that program. Proclamations, that's gonna be the fun stuff. Deputy Mayor, you can help me out with that. We have 3 of them to do. All right. I'll come down there, because we'll do the first one is mental health. So come on, we'll get you out of here. I saw you sitting up in the front.
For this constitutional.
Oh my gosh,
Shannon's here.
Came all the way from Clonkey there, right? She did. Wow. All right, so get to read the proclamation. I got my glasses this time. Whereas mental health is an essential part of the overall well-being, impacting individuals, families, and those who work in or own a business in Rochester, New Hampshire. 1 in 5 American adults experiences a mental health condition each year, and 1 in 6 American adolescents ages 12 to 17 experience a major depressive episode. Mental health challenges impact everyone. We all face challenges in life that can impact our mental health. Whereas, despite its prevalence, mental health remains shrouded in stigma, preventing many from seeking help. Per the CDC and the National Institute of Mental Health, the average time between a person's onset of symptoms to seeking treatment is 11 years. Whereas early intervention and access to quality care are crucial for managing mental health conditions and improving quality of life, you can recover from mental health challenges. Whereas May is recognized nationally as Mental Health Awareness Month, providing an opportunity to raise awareness, combat stigma, and promote mental health resources. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Paul Callahan, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 Mental Health Awareness Month in Rochester, New Hampshire. I encourage all residents of Rochester to participate in National Wear It Green Day on Friday, May 16th for mental health awareness. I also encourage all residents to educate themselves and others about mental health conditions, treatment options, and available resources. Challenge stigma by speaking respectfully and inclusively about mental health. Seek help if they are struggling with their mental health and encourage others to do the same. Support organizations that provide mental health services and advocacy. Create safe and supportive environments for open conversations about mental health and to become part of the mental health solution. Together, we can create a community where everyone feels empowered to prioritize their mental well-being and seek help when needed. Well, thank you, you guys. Very nice. You show off your skills. Come on up here. Bring up the pictures and see it. Hold it. I'll hold it up. There you go. You want to give a little example what Choose Love is? You got a 1 minute?
Oh, sheet.
Just 1 minute.
1 minute.
We're in a long meeting.
Carrie's going to take a picture too, real quick.
All right.
If that's okay.
Mayor, can we actually just get?
Yeah. Hold on.
Great, yeah, good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Yes, 1 minute, Choose
Yeah.
Love teaches essential life skills for all of us so we can not just survive, but thrive. And it helps us mentally, emotionally, physically, all ages.
All right.
And Choose Love.
Hey, Rochester, Choose Love. I love it.
Rochester's
Some
becoming.
businesses? Nice, I like it.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Very good, thank you. Nice to see you again. All right. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for coming. All right. Take that with you. Yeah, take it with you. That's a great group. Okay, 2 more to go, and then, Chief Woodrow, come on up for this one. They told me you have a frame up. No, dispatch will be the 3rd one. Excuse me, telecommunicators. I'll be able to be correct here. Okay, whereas the National Animal Care and Control Association has designated the 2nd full week of April as Animal Control Officer Appreciation Week, and whereas various federal, state, and local government officials throughout the country take the time to recognize, thank, and commend all animal control officers for the dedicated service they provide to the citizens, public safety, public service agencies, and domesticated animals across the country. And whereas every day animal control officers put themselves in potentially dangerous and often confrontational situations to protect the health and welfare of both animals and the public, and whereas the city of Rochester recognizes our animal control officer who answers calls for assistance, captures roaming and potentially dangerous animals, assisting animals in distress, investigating reports of animal cruelty and neglect, providing education for pet guardians about the responsible pet care, and mediating disputes between neighbors regarding conflicts involving animals. We never handled any of those calls, did we, Chief? No, all right. Whereas the city of Rochester wishes to express its sincere thanks and appreciation for the outstanding service carried out by Animal Control Officer Sue Paradise. How long has she been there?
27 and a half years.
Amazing. All right, so she's not here, but. Her 27 years is a long and distinguished tradition as Animal Control Officer in Rochester. Certainly set the bar. Now, therefore, I, Paul Callahan, by authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Rochester in the state of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim the week of April 13th through 19th, 2025, as Animal Control Officer Appreciation Week in the city of Rochester, and encourage all citizens to join us in expressing their sincere appreciation to the Rochester Police Department and Sue Paradise as their Animal Control Officer. Thank you. They said you had a phone call. Fire Chief, come on up here, Chief George. And I'm still going to call you Carrie Mayo. I'm going to date myself from being your dare instructor. Come on up, Carrie. I have to date myself. This is great. Yeah, I know. Now, whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, and emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs that prompts response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who contact the Rochester Emergency Communication Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And I'll tell you, my 37 years in law enforcement, I still call it dispatching, that is the toughest job to do. I mean, you agree with me, Chief?
I agree with you 100%.
It's tough. It's an extremely difficult job. They do a great job. Public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics for monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the city of Rochester have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now therefore, I, Paul Callahan, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Rochester in the state of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim the week of April 13th through the 19th, 2025, to be National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in the city of Rochester in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our citizens and city safe. Thank you. Nice job. You want one too now, Kim? Are you- All right, department. Now we have opioid abatement funding awards. Now, we had, for the past 3 years, we've had a mayor's ad hoc committee to address the opioid abatement money received from the Attorney General's office through Purdue Pharma lawsuit. And it was headed up most recently by Councilor Fontenot, and his group has been working on this for 3 years with the stakeholders, and they have provided us with 4 recommendations. Our RFP went out. And again, I just want to thank you, Councilor Fontenot, for being chair of that committee and the hard work you put in. And I appreciate it. The committee's work is done by the recommendations they made to us here today, and I appreciate everything you've done. So I'm going to turn it over now to Councilor Fontenot. He's going to make a brief statement, then he has the representatives from the 4 groups, there may be 3 out of the 4 here by looking in the audience, that'll get up and give a presentation for 5 minutes, and as councilors may, they can ask questions of each agency that comes up there after they've done their presentation. Turn it over to you, Councilor Fontenot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I wanted to give a couple of things, a brief timeline of, how we got to where we are today. So like the mayor said, that the committee was in existence for about 3 years, but it was really the last 5 months probably that we did most of the work that led us to where we are right now. And that began with the suggestion, and I think it, I'll give some of the credit to the finance director on this as well, that we created an RFP and we send it out, or we post it for the public, and we get organizations in the community that are already working in this field to send us proposals as to how they could use this money. So that really began back in November. An RFP draft was created and sent to the opioid committee to review and tweak if they so chose. We started that at our in the middle of November at our November 19th meeting. We reviewed this. The committee voted to use the RFP as it had been proposed, and we were told that then it would be posted by the city. That did happen the beginning of December. I think December 4th, the finance director confirmed to us that the RFP had been posted, and now it was being sent out to local newspapers for publication. The RFP stated that we had a deadline of January 15th of this year for organizations to respond, and so we waited for that. On January 17th, we were notified that we had received about a dozen responses. They were from, I think, 8 different organizations, with a couple of them having multiple proposals. So we received those towards the end of the January. The finance director forwarded us those RFP responses, and we the committee met. We met twice in February, on the 4th and on the 18th, and worked on how we would make decisions, how we would move forward with this. You know, I'll go back to say that the request for proposals that went out, that was this document. I think you probably all have seen a copy of this. This was the RFP that was posted, and basically it was a request for proposal, and it used the state guidelines to determine how those organizations had to report and account for their actions and how they would be held accountable during the process. So that was the document that was used. I'm actually going to let my vice chair speak to that in a couple of minutes as to how that broke down. But we did that. We received the responses back, and then it was suggested to us, and it was another good idea, that we create these matrices, and I'm going to pass them around so that everybody can look at them. We started out, and there's two copies here. I'll let you pass those down. One of these will have a blank page, and then another one has some scores filled in on it. So first, we created this document that said, how are we going to score these agencies? We listed the agencies over on one side, and the scoring criteria that we used was agency capacity, how they met the core strategy, what their reporting plan was, what their reach impact was, and then what their sustainability plan was. And we gave certain percentages to each of those categories. And then the second page, you will see one that has scores filled in. That one is just an example. That is the scores from one of the participants in the committee. So each one of us took these home, took the RFP responses home, the booklet, which is a pretty good sized booklet, so it certainly couldn't be read at one committee meeting. But we took the responses home, and we each filled out one of these forms, assigning a grade to each one of the proposals. Then on February 4th, or actually on February 18th, we brought these back in, and we culminated them. So there were the 4 counselors, and then we also had the director of welfare, a representative from the police department, and a representative from the school department that participated on this with us and also did scoring sheets. So we culminated all the scoring sheets, we put it up on a board, and we tallied them, and then that kind of gave us a direction of where the scoring was landing. Then we had discussions. Who do we think, out of these scores, out of these top ones that we've found, who do we think is going to qualify and be able to meet the criteria that we had set down? One of the criteria that we used, reach impact, was 30% of our scoring. And what we meant by that was, how many people in the community are we going to touch? How many people in the community are we going to affect? And that was really part of the reason that we picked 4 different organizations, was because we wanted to touch as many people in the community as possible. Hope on Haven Hill was one. Everybody, we're all aware of them. They do great work, and they have a great success rate. They touch a limited population. They work with expectant women with opioid problems, with opioid abuse issues. So that was great, and we said, we definitely agree with their proposal. So I think they were number 1 on our list. The next one was Infinity Peer Support. They are a local organization that I'll call them, I refer to them as kind of boots on the ground. They are dealing with the people out on the streets every day. They have an organization that is a peer-to-peer type of counseling and support organization. And I'm not going to, I guess, define all of them because they're going to be here and speak to what they do. But that was the angle that we saw from them. Dismiss House is an organization that is coming to Rochester, and they work with incarcerated women. So women that are coming out of the penal system, whether it be from the local county jail or the state prison. They too have a tremendous success rate with their facility in Manchester right now. So we saw them as an organization that is going to have an actual brick and mortar facility with the number of beds for treatment, and thought that was a good case. And then the SOS Recovery had applied for two different, they had two different proposals. The one that we chose involved prevention and education and prevention. So we picked those four organizations. We allotted 3 of them we fully funded, and 1 of them we partially funded. The total of our request, the total of the proposals was $997,028. Well, we only had $330,000 to work with, so we couldn't fund everybody. But we fully funded 3 of them and partially funded the 4th with our recommendations. So that's how we came about with that. After our February 18th meeting, I sent a letter to, an email to the mayor and the city manager and the finance director saying that I believed the committee had, reached its goal of recommending these fundings and ready to move on to the next step. So that's when it went to the finance committee. And again, I'll take the fault of that. I was not at that finance committee meeting. And I think the finance committee did not have the information they needed to follow through. So I guess with that, I'm going to ask Councilor Credo, who was the vice chair of the committee, to just make a few comments about how those organizations we felt met the recommendations.
Thank you, Tim. So as Councilor Fontenot has said, we met, our committee met, and we looked over each of those proposals. And the reason that we picked 4 different proposals was, as he said, because we could do the most amount of good for the whole community. If we just took the clear favorite, which was Hope on Haven Hill, I think it was my #1 score, it was everybody's #1 score, we would only be doing a service to women. And as we know, women make up just under 50% of the population we need to help in this city, and that's what that money is for. It's for helping everybody with opioid issues. So we started to look at the next ranked criteria that we had here. We had the clear winners. We had Dismiss House was clearly second, but knowing that Dismiss House wanted $300,000, we were in a very tough spot of saying, do we give every piece of our opioid money to one program? And we struggled with that. So the committee started, because some people had a recommendation of making 2 or sometimes 3 different programs, the committee started to bounce around ideas. And one of those ideas is, how do we help somebody in each population of Rochester, not just one, but everybody, because this should be helping everybody in this city. It shouldn't just go to women with kids recovering, it should be going to men. It should be going to youth for front-end education, which we know also makes up a large portion of what we are trying to help the city with, is that educational piece. And when we really looked at what the RFPs had, because we can only work with what comes in, we looked at this and we said, there are 4 on the table, and while not all of them scored the highest, if we were to fund these 4, we would be meeting something for everybody in this city. And just to look at that, we looked at the prison population. Dismiss House would be helping women trying to reacclimate into not just Rochester, but their communities. Staying sober. We had Hope on Haven Hill, which is one of my favorite programs in this city. It's extremely well-run. It's very easy to like Hope on Haven Hill. Carrie Norton does an amazing job, and this would be helping women and mothers who have those opioid issues. We also started to look at SOS. While we didn't recommend anything to do with expanding the needle exchange program, what we did recommend, and I think it's very important to note here that there's two from SOS. One was to expand the needle exchange program, and the second was for the only RFP that we could find that would actually help children, teenagers, and families. And this is extremely important because we know that front-end services today play a major role with how we help communities that are struggling with opioid crisis. So we made a recommendation for the second SOS Recovery 2 for a total of $25,000. The other one that we are recommending is Infinity Peer Support because it's the only program that we could find that is going to be helping men. It's going to be helping dual diagnosis or co-occurring disorders, as they're called in our community. By looking at all four of those, our committee made a decision. This is the only way to help somebody in each slot. If we only give all the money to one program, we are not helping up to 50 to 70% of our community. And that's a big issue. Now, I understand that looking at some of these, some people might have some reservations. But when we look at the AG guidelines, if we look at the expectations of the list of the opioid recommendation uses, under Schedule A core strategies, and I quote, states that qualify with block grants shall choose from among the abatement strategies listed in Schedule B. However, priority should be given to the following core abatement strategies. Those are our core strategies. If we were to look at I think it's very clear. I don't think I need to spend any time on Hope on Haven Hill. I think that we all understand that this meets those core strategies. But just to look at, because I've heard some things that were inaccurate in past meetings, Infinity Peer Support, for instance. When we look at providing a ride, it's so much more than providing a ride for these folks. It's increasing support for additional groups, increase the number of people that are on a path of substance abuse, helping with case management services and increasing the number that are going into that. These are all highlighted in the RFP if we read it and we really look at that. It's not just rides. SOS. This is going to be helping with family recovery support services, helping adolescents and teens, creating a referral system for DCYF, JPPO workers, CPS, helping parents talk with kids about addiction before it happens. Again, anybody that's been in social services like myself, I've been in it for 22 years, we know that those front-end services pay dividends. They're just harder to track in the long run. We know that these fit those qualifications because in the Exhibit A paperwork, if you go under the core strategies, Infinity Peer Support falls under Part E, expansion of warm handoff programs and recovery services. It's clearly outlined. SOS, under Part G, prevention programs, clearly outlined. So our committee came to this conclusion because it's the only way that we can actually move forward with helping everybody in this community and not just a sect in this community. This money should be used for everybody. And the final conclusion of our committee was to do so.
So, yeah, that really kind of explains what the committee did, how we got where we are today, and I guess now
Just before we do,
Yeah.
I forgot to have Mr. Sullivan, who has actually talked to the Attorney General's office, and you all got the email from the city manager to speak on who really qualifies, and who may not qualify, from the AG's office.
Sure. Yes, I did have a communication with the Deputy Attorney General Buffetti regarding the reporting requirements. There are fairly stringent reporting requirements related to these funds. So the City of Rochester has to report annually to the Department of Justice where we disperse the funds, and then the department has to, then there's a reporting requirement to the various entities that have the settlement that provided the settlement funds. And one of the things that we're faced with is whomever you decide are going to get a distribution of funds, there has to be a reporting requirement from that agency to the city of Rochester, where they have to demonstrate that all of the funds were used towards opioid abatement and opioid misuse. There has to be an opioid component to it, and they have to demonstrate that, and that agency has to attest to that. We also then have to review that report and say, okay, you've met, or you've demonstrated to us that you have used the funds appropriately, and then we in turn will have to make an attestation to the DOJ that we're confirming that the funds were used to treat opioid problems. As mentioned by one of the counselors, there can be co-occurring substance abuse disorders. That's fine, but opioid has to be one of them. And the reporting back is probably going to be tough for us to interpret, so we have to make sure that we work with whatever agencies receive the funding, so we understand how they use the funds and how we in turn must report the funds, expenditure of the funds. One of the things that I would recommend that there be a separate agreement with us. We have the municipal funding agreement that all social service agencies receive any type of municipal funding. There's a fairly lengthy agreement. Gives us a lot of power to review their expenditures, their books. These funds, or whoever's the agencies getting these funds, would have to be on one of those agreements. I would also not recommend that we give 100% of the funds at one time up front, that it's either a reimbursement program or a percentage up front pending your reporting. The problem, or the challenge, I should say, is if there were expenditures or reports that we didn't interpret to be in line with the use of funds, if we passed it on to the DOJ and then they rejected it, it would be difficult for us to go and recover the funds back from the agency if we're doing things in arrears. And that would place the city in the position of replacing those opioid funds from the general fund. We certainly want to avoid that, but there has to be a really kind of robust reporting and tracking system that not only is able to comply with from the agency standpoint, but also for us to interpret and then redirect back up to the DOJ.
Question?
Who? Mr. Sullivan, go ahead.
How did you contact the DOJ?
Email.
And they put all did you pass the agency's proposals to the DOJ?
I provided the Deputy Attorney General a summary of what the city was contemplating dispersing the funds.
Did you pass their proposals to them to get a tacit yes or no?
I'm not going to send the entire, I wasn't going to send the entire proposal book to the Deputy Secretary, Deputy Attorney General. I gave him a summary. And in the summary, I quantified what each proposal, the highlights, and what the award amount, what they were considering awarding.
And what did they say in return?
He said specifically, he didn't comment on saying this one qualifies, that one qualifies, one or the other. It was a general term of, one of the agencies stood out among the others as the clearest case that could make the clearest case for the being able to utilize the opioid funds and be able to report and have the capacity to meet all those other requirements.
What did they say about the other three?
That's just that we had to be certain that if we did submit funds or award funds together, that they be able to stand up to that reporting requirement.
Fair enough, thank you.
Is that reporting requirement the same paperwork that I have been talking about with the exhibits for the opioid use? Is that what the AG is going by? I mean, this is their document, correct?
That's the guideline, yeah.
Okay.
And then the reporting requirement would be, how does the agency report back to us on the specific use of funds and the specific treatment and abatement of the opioid issue?
Thank you. For Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Go ahead, Council Sullivan.
Thank you, Your Honor. You'd mentioned, which I hadn't thought about before, but a reimbursement model. So in that case, would the concept be organization X is selected under their proposal, they would do the work, they would then submit an invoice, let's say, to the city. We would have that approved by the AG's office, and if approved, then pay the invoice?
No. What it would be, they would go ahead and expend, we would provide them the award, say it's $10,000. They would say, okay. They would go and expend that $10,000. They would submit back to us the invoice for reimbursement, plus some type of report justifying and quantifying that the expenses that they're submitting for reimbursement met all the criteria of opioid abatement.
Follow up.
Yeah, how many are we going to do?
I think
If you can ask me.
I know, I think you said it, I know, I just for clarity, I think you said at the beginning, give them $10,000.
As an example.
Yeah, but no, that one. And then invoice us, but we already gave them the money, so what are we
No.
reimbursing them? If we
No.
give them 10,000?
No, that's, I'm sorry, I confused it. A reimbursement method would be, we award someone, an agency, you're awarded X amount of dollars. We're not writing you a check right off the bat for the amount. We're going to wait, you're going to expend the funds, you're going to submit to be reimbursed by these grant funds, by these settlement funds, I should say, for your expenditure that then qualifies for the criteria that we have to examine for the opioid abatement guidelines and confirm that they did, in true fact, expend the funds on opioid abatement. If they didn't, and there was a question on how they spent the funds, and it didn't seem to qualify, or they didn't justify it properly, I wouldn't release the reimbursement.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking, and, so, but it would be us making the determination, not the AG's office.
Yeah, no,
Because the
it would
last
be-
thing I
it would be
want is
us
us to
that
be
would
on the
make
hook for money.
it would be me, essentially, and whoever else we put together that reviews these to determine, does that qualify and should it get reimbursed?
And then if the AG didn't agree, we would still be on the hook for the money.
Yeah, so, and the other case of this, so we pushed the money out to Agency A, we agreed in their submittal, then I took that submittal with the annual report back to the DOJ's office, and then they come back to us and say, you spent X amount of dollars on Agency B, and we don't think in their determination that it qualified. So we'd have to then either ask for the funds back, which is probably, if we've already dispersed them even on a reimbursement or a 50%, it'd be very tough to claw those back. We'd have to replace the funds from the general fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Turn it over to you to bring the first group up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not sure how many groups we have here, but there's 4, so I'll let you choose who wants to come up first. It's fine with me, but
Good evening. Cheryl Andrews, Dismas Home of New Hampshire. It's been an interesting conversation. Thank you for having it. Thank you so much, Mayor Callahan and the City Council members, for giving us the chance to share our passion for Dismas Home and address your questions regarding our application for opioid abatement funds. We truly appreciate your support. At Dismas Home, we are dedicated to empowering justice-involved women facing substance use disorders. We're excited for our plan to expand services with a new facility in Rochester as we're in the process of acquiring property on Rochester Hill Road. The expansion will allow us to increase our capacity from 8 beds to a total of 22, providing even more women in this community with the support they need to heal and live in a very long-term recovery, thriving environment. Our mission is to serve the women of the greater Rochester area, and we want to assure you that there are no plans to transfer anyone from our Manchester program to this new facility. A significant 85% of the women that we assist are mothers, but they're separated from their children. Their primary goal is to rebuild those precious family connections and foster healthy relationships, breaking the cycle of relapse and recidivism. That's our whole agency goal, is to give them the opportunity to live long, healthy lives in recovery and break that cycle of relapse. At Dismas Home, we believe in breaking the cycle of relapse and recidivism, and our goal is to offer residents the chance to create better futures for themselves and the next generation. We do this with a highly trained staff specializing in this specific population. We are covered currently and plan to be operating 24/7 staff with mental health and substance use disorder services at this facility in Rochester. Since 2016, we have welcomed 126 women into our program with 8 beds in Manchester. 100% of them have been diagnosed with opioid substance abuse. 100%, we've tracked it. We would not get any of our state contract funding if we didn't serve women with opioid issues. And if I might also think about, for instance, the conversation you were just having about a reimbursement challenge or question, we do that already on a monthly basis when we file with the Bureau of Drug and Alcohol Services for our rebate, our reimbursement for our contract funds. So we got it down. We know how to do it. We can assure you that we can supply you with adequate details to make sure that we're using the funds correctly. Thank you for the consideration. I do hope that you'll have some questions for me to answer at this point, but we really do hope you continue to support our organization here in Rochester.
Councilor Walker.
Yes, thank you. Do you have a date when your place in Rochester is going to be up and running?
Well, we are tentatively, got fingers crossed for third quarter, end of the third quarter of '25 to be up and running.
Okay. All these women will be opioid.
Absolutely.
You just said you can meet the requirements for reporting.
Yes.
Okay. And would you be taking in other women from surrounding communities in the county?
The answer would be yes, but we would prefer to work with women who are coming, our justice-involved women come from a variety of different places currently. They come to us from drug court, they come to us from the jail, they come to us from the state prison. We wouldn't take women from the state prison here because that's Concord. We're talking about Rochester and the greater Rochester market, right?
Yep.
So that's where our focus is, greater Rochester and Stratford County, Rochester.
Very good, thank you.
Yep. Go ahead, Councilor Richardson.
How many women you're currently serving from Rochester in your program?
We have 2 that have recently come to us from Stratford County Jail.
2.
Yep, out of 8 in Manchester.
That from the drug program?
They were, nope, they were coming out of the jail.
So were they having a sentence, or was it pre-trial and they got out on bail?
I don't have those details off the top of my head.
Let me over here, I missed Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. My question was along the timeline. So in your timeline laid out in the RFP, it said that you would close on the property in February. Is that done?
No.
Okay.
And the challenge is that the seller is having some issues with their end of the deal.
Okay. And then the next one was renovations beginning in March, so that probably didn't happen.
Nope.
I'll just say that my biggest concern when we talked about this at the Finance Committee
Mhm.
was not about the work, it was
Yeah.
about,
The timing,
is it gonna happen?
yeah.
I guess was my point, and I didn't feel like there was enough surety. The fact that you didn't already have a location, and I don't know what the timing of this is, but I mean, I'd like to see it like further, I'd like for you to be at the May, June step of hiring staff members, and then we'd be there. That was my biggest concern,
Sure.
so.
I
just
can
wanted to check in,
appreciate
And I
that.
can understand the
Yep.
issues, and I'm not saying it's not a worthy thing to fund to get the money. I'm just saying that if we'd be on the hook for money not getting spent, I don't know what the risk is. A reimbursement does sound safer, though.
Absolutely.
Councilor Credo.
Cheryl, thank you for being here today. Really
Good to see you
appreciate it.
again.
Can you, I remember from meeting you, there was an absolutely staggering statistic about the rate of recovery
Yep.
that the women that go through your program. Can you speak a little bit about that so
Sure.
everybody can understand
Sure.
how significant that is?
Of the women that come through our program, 65% of them complete the program. The national average for completing a program like ours, which includes a 90-day mental health program and then an additional 6 months of transitional living. So they stay with us for almost a year. Some of them stay even up to a year. If a woman completes the program, the average completion rate for us is 65% of the women that come through. The national average is 50%. So we're working to increase our long-term success and our completion rate, but it's still much better than the average national rate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And for those that aren't in social services, that's a staggering figure. It's extremely rare to be hearing those figures, so excellent. The other question that I would just have for you would be piggybacking on what Councilor Sullivan had just said, which is, there was one really good argument made, which is how can we be guaranteed that you are coming here, right? It is a fair argument.
Over my dead body, I'm coming.
Okay.
We're coming.
And I think that is a legitimate concern that some of us
Absolutely.
do have, because if we are going to award those funds, we just want to make sure that it is to an institution that we can be guaranteed will be here.
Yep.
With that said, I do welcome you here, and I really hope you can make a difference for everybody in this community, but especially for the women that are getting out of jail.
The energy around the conversations that I've had, just for thought and conversation here, is people in Rochester are hugely warm and welcoming to the conversations that we're having. And they're saying, oh my gosh, we can't wait to help you. We can't wait to get involved with you. We can't wait to collaborate with you. So we're coming. It's just a matter of getting it done.
Thank you. In regards to timing and arriving in Rochester, so if your organization was chosen to receive an award, you wouldn't have any objection to not actually receiving a check until after you were up and running in Rochester?
100%. Makes perfect sense to me.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone over here, questions? I have a few. Just
Sure.
for the record, I don't know if I met you a couple years
You
ago in
did.
Portsmouth. I thought so. yeah.
Yes.
Very big supporter. I get it. And I think we talked about you moving into Rochester, which I support. And I told you that, and I still support you. I still support you coming into Rochester.
Yep.
My big issue was the same thing that Councilor Sullivan had said is, when are you going to get here? And can you guarantee us these are Rochester area folks that are going to come? And I'll just let you know, my background is in law enforcement. If
Yep.
I think I probably told you that. I think I was the first law enforcement officer that was on drug court in the entire state.
Yep.
And I've been to all the national trainings. I know of one case where we sent somebody from drug, I haven't been on it since I've been mayor, so it's almost 4 years. So I was aware of one where we sent to dismiss. The chief of probation in Stratford County doesn't know anything about you. And drug court right now said, I don't think we're sending anybody. That's why I was curious who you're getting. It sounds like you're getting people that are getting, their defense attorneys are reaching out to you to have these folks fill out an application because they're probably pre-trial and they're getting out.
We do get from pretrial, we do get defense attorneys.
Yeah,
We do
so
get drug court
I'm guessing that's
coordinators.
probably
Yep.
what the case is for the
Yep.
two out there. So,
I recently had a great conversation with Andrew Livernoy, the new drug court judge in Stratford
Yeah,
County.
Judge Luana, brand new.
He and I know each other from like 100 years ago, so we did have a conversation, and as soon as we can, we'll be certainly taking more people as we can.
And the other concern that I had, and it was mentioned in the finance group, was obviously, number one, was not here. And number two is, you're only going to have 14 people, and you ask for all the money. 14 people is a lot of money. And you heard Mr. Councilor Fontenot and Councilor Credo talk about how important it is to have this reach. 14 people is a lot of people for that money. That's a lot. I mean, I can't scratch my head on.
It takes about $1 million a year to run the program
I
because
know.
we're staffed 24/7. And, yep, we could use it for sure.
Well, I get you're going to use it, but you're only reaching 14 people.
At a time.
Right,
And I
6
can-
months
so
program, well, they
14
can be there a year.
14 beds. People are admitted. Some people come for a shorter amount of time. Some people complete earlier. We're planning on 14 beds. 14 beds can get filled and emptied in a matter of time, and we always have a wait list. So we're serving the women who are in the house. We're serving their families because we're talking about helping them to figure out how to patch those relationships. And we're building constructive attitudes and workforce that can go right back into the community once they leave us.
Sure.
Yeah.
What would you use this money for? I know you asked for the whole bag,
Sure.
but what do you do with 125?
So what we would do with 125, we would certainly use it for clients' resident services, mostly, whether it's, it would probably go to staffing, because our clinical staff is in the house 24/7. We have a mental health clinician, and we have a drug and alcohol clinician, and we have staff, clinical case managers, and people, so they're providing the services. So the money would be used towards providing those exact services: mental health, drug and alcohol treatment, group therapies, and those things that are providing the services.
So they'll all have the opioid component, which you're going to need, and these are licensed and drug alcohol counselors.
Absolutely.
Licensed and alcohol drug counselors that
Yep.
are there. Okay.
100%.
Again, I support you coming to Rochester.
Thank you.
You do good work. I've heard
Yeah.
nothing but great things about your organization. I just looking out for Rochester residents, and I want to make sure we get our biggest bang for the buck.
I appreciate that.
Let's move on to the second one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Who's next?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name's Maggie Paget. I'm the Deputy Director for SOS Recovery. A little background about me: I started in street outreach in this community, serving people experiencing homelessness and people who use drugs about 7 years ago, and then since pivoted to some family work, and now get to do a really wonderful blend of the two that I'm here to talk to you about. So I put in an RFP request for expanded family recovery services in the form of a model using an evidence-based, internationally recognized model called Collaborative Proactive Solutions, which was created and has been worked on for several decades by a child psychiatrist named Dr. Ross Green. And my reasoning for this was, prior to coming to SOS Recovery, I was a permanency therapist and field trainer with Waypoint Family Services, and I was working almost exclusively with young adolescents and their families that had some type of early adolescent system involvement. So whether that be juvenile probation or parole, or CHINS petitions, which is Child in Need of Services, they had some level of involvement with that, and I would come in and do case management services with them. Exclusively, all of those teens had a parent, whether they were involved in their life still or not, that had substance use history, almost exclusively opioids, if we're being specific. And as I was navigating these systems with these kids, I identified that there was very limited supports for the whole family. There was punitive measures for the kid. There was some parenting supports for the parent, but not a lot if you have a teen or a tween when things get really messy. And kids were really struggling and falling through the cracks and then ending up in systems where they come through the doors of SOS, right? And so we put together this RFP request, and having heard you guys speak a little bit just now about the concerns regarding data reporting, I did want to note that we as an agency have already been managing about $200,000 of opioid abatement funds over the last 2 years for our criminal justice program. So we have a pre-existing data collection model and distribution that we report on monthly and quarterly. So that includes things like demographics. It's able to meet the requirement for that threshold of opioid use or co-occurring use. We do reporting right to the city of Rochester about our population served, how we're hitting those metrics. So we have a model in place that's already working. And with that program, we had a deliverable goal to, I think it was 179 people we were supposed to work with in the first 2 years. We hit 184 in year one and have really scaled out that program. And this model that I'm here talking to you about today, the collaborative proactive solutions model, is really similarly functioning. The goal of it is it's designed intentionally to be able to be scaled out to eventually use braided funding so we can serve an even wider range of families that do not fall under that opioid abatement scope. So I've really put a lot of thought into how we could get this not only off the ground, but expand it out. And there's a training component as part of this RFP as well that would help us scale it to other agencies and other family resource centers. And really, for those who don't know anything about CPS, it's a model that's function. The goal is that children do not just act out or struggle in a vacuum. There's some type of root barrier that is preventing that child from succeeding. There's no kid who wants to wake up in the morning and fall behind their peers in school. There's no kid who wants to make a decision that lands them on probation at 16 where they have a curfew. Just like there's no adult that wants to not have the answers to how to support and talk with their kids. Our youth risk assessments and our parent surveys in the state of New Hampshire the last few years have shown this pretty concerning trend where teens are doing what teens do, and they're engaging in risky behavior. But what we're seeing an increase of is a lack of reported understanding or regard for long-term impact. So kids are always going to make unsafe decisions. They're teenagers. But what we're seeing is this decrease in understanding of how that can impact them long-term. At the same time, we have parents reporting less and less confidence in addressing these concerning behaviors with their kids, or just lack of awareness of how to talk about it. And that falls for parents, guardians, fosters. If you have a teen in your house, this is pretty relatable. And, you know, I can answer any questions you guys can throw at me, hopefully, but I really just wanted to end it with encouraging you guys to check out the CPS model, take some time. Ross Green has a really great TED Talk called Kids Do Well When They Can, which is the big mantra of this, is that it's our job as adults, if we want to reduce the number of adult community members we have accessing my services, Hope on Haven Hill services, all the services we spend time in these rooms talking about, it's our responsibility to lay a foundation for those adolescents. And that starts with educated and supported parents. I think that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Walker?
Thank you.
Richardson, and Councilor Credo.
So this particular program has nothing to do with harm reduction, correct?
Nothing harm reduction, no.
Excellent. How many people in this program are from Rochester at the moment?
So this program doesn't exist yet. So we do have a current family program. I don't have our Rochester specific numbers off the top of my head, but I do have, we do provide our demographic data to the city of Rochester with how many community members we serve that I can get.
Okay. So this is all about training parents on how to breach the subject and talk to their kids, and this is about telling the kids basically what the repercussions are, what path you're going down.
So no, it's it's a collaborative-based solution. So the problem that we're running into is if you don't know yourself as an adult because you had a substance use history yourself or you grew up in a household with low functioning, we know what we know. And so this is about working collaboratively, because what I continue to see, and we continue to see in some of these systems of reform for adolescents, is it's just very punitive on the child with not a lot of involvement of what's going on around that child in their home. If I have a 15-year-old who's running away 5 days a week and it is ended up on probation, and I'm just looking at that behavior of the 15-year-old running away and not what's going on in this home and how can we support this whole family functioning, I'm really doing that kiddo a disservice.
Thank you.
So why so low a dollar amount? If this is a new program that you're starting, 25,000 seems awful low.
Yeah,
for
so
an
I
ask.
actually am excited to say that that is a number that I came up with after having multiple meetings one-on-one with Dr. Green, and that was the budget that he gave me. So that included the creation of 2 separate 8-week video training modules. One is an 8-week training the trainer module series that you go through. And then the other 8 weeks is the actual curriculum itself that you work with the parents on in an 8-week course. And then the other portion of that funding number that we put in is to get a couple of our staff trained as certified collaborative proactive solutions instructors, which is an internationally recognized credential to hold.
Councilor Crito, and then Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you for being, was it Mandy?
Maggie.
Maggie, okay, I couldn't hear your name at first. Thank you, Maggie. So I want to piggyback off what Councilor Richardson said. Why 25,000? I think you gave a really good answer as to why. But I also think in looking at the asks for every other program and considering that it could benefit up to 181, I think is what you said that this program has already done in other areas. To think about that, that is by far the most bang for your buck that we could ever ask for. And it's also the only program that's going to do those front-end services, and it's the only program that's going to directly help the teens. As somebody that works the Fast Forward program myself, as a coordinator, I see that we have underlying issues and causes that are creating issues within homes on a constant basis. And the problem is that we think we know what the issue is until we start to work with families. And unfortunately today, that is why we look at a 65% completion rate like Dismas House and are amazed, is because we don't look at all of the issues that are involved with these. So I'm also looking at something that you said here. You talked about your data reporting, that you have over $200,000 in the history of opioid codependent use, in which you're already reporting to the state. So is it fair to say that SOS has a long history of doing exactly what is needed that we've already had these discussions about? In fact, it would be exactly what the Attorney General would be looking for, and that you would be a primary company in order to take on those challenges.
Yes, we are very well versed in opioid abatement funding and our data and how we prove our model and to meet those metrics that are required. We've been doing it, so.
Thank you for clearing all of that up. You've been
Thank you.
extremely helpful.
Anyone else? Yes, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. So yeah, I guess I'm a little unclear, not from your perspective, but on what is the expectation of metric in terms of the time frame? Like the last one, the mayor had mentioned 14 beds in 6 months. That gives us some concept. For this one, it sounds like you're using the $25K to create the 8-week training program, train people on how to implement it. I guess, can you give some estimate of how many people will be served, Rochester people, within 6 months?
I mean, so ideally the goal is that we would be tying this into a referral system with our pre-existing JPPO and CHINS cases, as well as DCYF and the DHHS Navigator. So it really depends on caseload of what's happening in Rochester. I know when I was serving families in Rochester, I was definitely serving 30 to 60 cases a month, but that was I was direct referral. So I would feel pretty confident that after creation within 6 months, we would probably be starting to really gear up and hitting that 25. We like to keep classes a little small just so we can provide direct one-on-one support, so we can't be super mass. But
Thank you.
I do want to add, just as another answer to that, is that, again, the long-term goal of this, once we've kind of got it up and running and it's working, is to then scale out and train other resource centers and other family programs in the state so they can then implement this there.
Thank you. Couple questions, right here.
Oh.
Sounds like it's sustainable, which is a good sign. I appreciate that. Reading the grant, how does this directly relate to opioid abatement?
Yeah, so opioid...
That's the big question to get your money.
Yeah, no, I mean, opioid use, we hear it called all the time, addiction is a family disease, right? It's not just the one person who's using substances that's impacted. If you are a parent, you can access these services. If you are a parent yourself that is using opioids and needs support, if you're a child, if you're a guardian, a foster caregiver of a child that their parent lost custody because of opioid use, if you're an adolescent yourself that's using opioids or has co-occurring diagnoses with substance use, it's not super wide within the OAF like guidelines, but we are able to use it as a family support.
So, again, back to my question, how does this directly support, this family program directly support opioid abatement? The word abatement means get rid of, so you're like an in-between, right?
Yeah.
It's like an
Prevention,
in-between.
I think, is the answer to that, because my job, I want to work myself out of a job. I don't want to have to sit in rooms and talk about opioid abatement, because I would like this issue to eventually not be something we need to talk about. And again, it comes back to that final point I was saying, of if we want to minimize the number of adults that are accessing services for opioids, we need to start targeting the foundation we're laying for our young people in this community.
Okay, thank you. You have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Just a quick follow-up, please. In looking at the guidelines under Exhibit E, list of opioid remedies and core strategies under Schedule A, if we go to G, it's prevention programs. This is specifically outlined in what the expectation is of our opioid money to be used. In fact, once you go to G, it even says Part 2 is funding for evidence-based prevention programs right there. So I would just like to point out it's as clear as day.
And I'd just like to point out, going to end it on this, is that we received a response from the Attorney General's office that, kind of questioned, hey, you're going to have to jump through some hoops for these other groups to qualify. So that's why I'm asking.
I jump through hoops all the time. Thank you so much.
Next one, Tim.
Thank you very much. Jim,
we're
do you
good.
want to
Thank
come
you.
up?
Evening. I'm Jim Ricker. I'm dropping my water bottle, but I'm also the vice president of the board with Infinity Peer Support. First off, I wanted to say thank you for your proclamation tonight acknowledging and celebrating May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Obviously, to one of the state-directed peer support agencies for mental health across the state of New Hampshire, it's very near and dear to our hearts. So thank you. There. We're requesting $50,000, as you can see in our request, for 2 grant-funded part-time peer support facilitators / van drivers, and an existing part-time peer support person / van driver. Now, I want to just make it clear that, because there was some information that wasn't accurate earlier in the month, we do not drive people to appointments free or otherwise. Our van drivers we are going to pick up and bring home members who cannot get to the agency to be involved with our programs, our groups. There is the occasional trip down to the DMV for folks that need to be able to get their ID or their license or whatnot, but we don't drive around town or to different towns delivering people to medical appointments or any other appointments as a general rule. 80 to 90% of the job of these peer support folks that / van driver is peer support. That includes direct, boots on the ground, everyday support to our members. Even when the 10 to 20% of their time they're spending in the van, they are still providing peer support. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everybody on the council. We've been in continuous operation since 1994. We serve Stratford County as a whole, as our directive from the State Board of Mental Health Services requires. But out of our 560 current members, 386 of them are from Rochester. That's 68.93%, just to be exact, to a couple of data points. Peer facilitators lead and create groups and conduct case management and one-on-one interactions. with our members. It's their primary role. We generate monthly and quarterly reports on different data points, which we've included in our proposal, to the state. So we are more than prepared and able to hit any reporting requirements that you ask us to hit. We do it every month, every quarter, every year. We're also audited by the Board of Mental Health Services on a yearly basis. We submit an annual financial audit to them. We're, as Dismas House and Hope on Haven Hill and SOS, we can all meet these requirements. With this money, you're not only getting peer facilitators that also drive VAND. We're also, peer facilitators help create programs. So that way, we are looking at creating additional programs to work on opioid abatement specifically. That would be different groups. They're peer-led groups. So one of them, just for a couple examples, one of them could be Heroin Anonymous. We are also looking at working with some of the recovery agencies, such as Addiction Recovery Services, in order to work together in order to provide that SUD, or substance use disorder, programming for our members. So again, just wanted to say thank you for that proclamation earlier, and I'm not going to sit up here and say, all I want to say is the other three organizations are more than worth your money. What you're asking to give them and your recommendations from the Opioid Abatement Committee, it's wonderful. All of them do great work. Dismas House works with a very specific demographic. Hope on Haven Hill works with an even more targeted demographic. SOS's request works with a different demographic. It's larger youth and families. Under our directive from the state, we work with adults, 18 and above. Male, female, however someone identifies. But the key to remember about substance use disorder is that if you have substance use disorder, whether it's opioids or any other substance, you also have mental health concerns. They go hand in hand. And when you're in that place, you can't pick out one part and say, this is what it is. It's substance use or it's mental health. You need to work on both at the same time. And one of our main goals is to continue to grow our working relationships with other organizations around the city, such as SOS. We would love to work with Dismas House, and with them, with their clients when they do leave, in order to be able to continue on their journey of recovery in a peer-supported environment where they can maintain their sobriety. So I'm open to any questions.
Excellent, thank you, Jim.
Councilor Walker.
So, do you guys currently use opioid abatement funding from the state?
No.
So you'd be new to this, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're still certain that you can meet all the reporting requirements that?
Yes, sir. The guidelines provided and the reporting required for this is no more difficult than what we have to do on a regular basis for the State of New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services, Bureau of Mental Health Services.
Are you
We
comfortable
would
with the reimbursement?
I'm sorry?
Are you comfortable with the reimbursement type situation with the city, or no?
Well, it's not that it's unworkable, but I would recommend for everyone involved, all four organizations that would be potentially funded, that there would be a seed model type of, if you were going to go with a reimbursement, it would be a seed model type of work. So that way there's some upfront, so that way each organization can get the ball rolling, hire the people they need, get the training done, get the programs going, and then work on a reimbursement past that.
Thank you.
Nothing from you, Counselor Richardson. I'm trying to follow the path.
No, I'm okay on this.
Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. So to be clear, I mean, I think you had said that you weren't taking people to substance abuse appointments, but it does say in your thing that you could. So you might do that at times? Page 2, it
Yes,
says
we
you
could. We could do
Okay.
that. Currently, we do not do that.
All right. So that was my question. So the drivers, you have one driver now, you'd be hiring 2 new part-timers and partially funding the other driver. But then there's a lot of stuff in there about more programs. So my question is, those are programs that you would create that don't exist now?
Yes, we would create additional groups or programs. One program we currently have is, it's this program, actually. It is a family support for families with people suffering from addiction. That includes opioid addiction. We already have that one running. There are additional ones we can do, and we already have some ideas on what we want to do, but
Well, I guess that's my question, is like with Dismas, was the same thing about the, how concrete is what we're funding? And so my question is, that probably requires other funds, right? To
No, sir.
create those programs, so those are free?
yes, sir. All our services to our members, all our groups are free.
So it's a volunteer leading them? Nobody gets paid?
There can be a volunteer with them. Most of the time, it's our peer facilitators who are paid that are involved with creating and leading groups. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Horn, then Counselor Credo.
I have one question about the services everybody provides, yet so far I haven't heard much about what you're doing outside of counseling and those type of things. Are we working these folks towards employment, learning, trades, and having a purpose in life? Can you answer that?
Sure, I can tell you for sure that we're not a vocational school, but we do have other groups. It's wide-ranging. There, for lack of a better way of putting it very quickly, there are 8 dimensions of wellness in the mental health world. We concentrate on a couple of them. We offer different groups such as the one that I had mentioned for support. We have art. We have living skills. We have all sorts of different and varied types of opportunities. So that way they're all peer-led. So someone can come in, we have some where you're learning how to work your checkbook, doing finance. We have art. Art's therapeutic. Now, it is not technically art therapy, but we all know art is therapeutic. It's being done on a peer level, not on a clinical level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Counselor Credo.
Hey, Jim, good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you as well.
Thank you. So if I am correct, over 300 people have been helped, for a total of 68% of those people were from Rochester.
Technically, 560 members.
Thank you, 560.
560, and 386 of them are from Rochester.
And, I've heard some people say, well, where are all these licensed professionals that are working there? And I would just like to kind of point out, there is a program that's been around since, I believe, the 1920s. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous, which is probably credited to helping tens of millions of people through those years. Would you say that the program and the modality that you're using is somewhat similar in just the sense that it's peer-driven?
Oh, absolutely. In the modality, it's 100% the same. We operate a little differently, but it is a peer-driven organization. I would say one thing to add on to that, to add on with what you were saying, is that the VA has taken both the clinical aspect and the peer aspect of mental health and done wonders when it has come to working with our veterans who have returned, whether it's substance use, whether it's PTSD. They know the value of peer support and how that does things that you can't You don't have the same relationship with your therapist as you do with somebody else who's gone through the same thing you have. And that's the same model that we have with peer support at Infinity.
And in terms of time, I'd want to kind of push forward as best as we can, but you also mentioned you were going to create additional support groups and that these would be focusing on opiates. Is that what you said?
Yes, there's going to be a, they're not going to be probably 100% opioids based because generally speaking, you're looking at co-occurring substance use.
Correct.
But we will be focusing on the opioid aspect of those groups.
Okay, I'm trying to think. I've got so many questions here and so little time. So just coming back to this, you have never actually reported out for the opioid in terms of reimbursement from the state. So this would be new for your program if the city council does vote through on this. Do you have any concerns with that after hearing everything from today?
Specific to the opioid abatement grant, we've never utilized the opioid abatements funds, but we do work on a reimbursement model with the state already. And I will state that it would be more advantageous if it was not on a reimbursement model, just because you want to be able to invest upfront, get things going, and not, I guess, not try to build the plane while you're flying it.
And just to wrap up here, it sounds, you mentioned before you felt mischaracterized, like this was all about rides, but isn't it true that in your RFP here that you have actually stated that there would be additional groups, increase the number of people on the path of substance abuse and recovery, increase core management services? This would also hopefully help with the unhoused population, increase the addressing of the criminal justice system and those that are within that system. All of that is in your RFP, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And once again, I'm just going to go back to what we have to base everything on. List of opioid recommended uses under Schedule A, core strategies. If you turn to page E5, one thing that you will see there is support people in recovery use an OUD and any co-occurring SUD mental health conditions through evidence-based. Is this an evidence-based practice as well?
Yes, sir. There's decades of evidence.
And strategies that may include but are not limited to the following programs. And it goes right through these programs. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Anybody else? I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
Opioid treatment, a substance abuse treatment for opioids is going to be new to your group, correct?
As in an official group type setting or
You
specific
mentioned that you're going to have to
programming?
train people. What are you going to train them in?
Well, we will be training them in peer support. We're not looking at, right at this point, looking at training them to be CRSWs. We're looking at having trainings and knowing what the program that we're implementing, that group that we're implementing, how that's supposed to operate.
So if I understand it right, what you want to do is you want to take people mostly unhoused and take them, no, okay.
No, sir.
That's fine. I heard unhoused a couple times. That's fine.
Well, we do,
So you want to
there's a
take,
larger unhoused population in Rochester, and we do serve the unhoused population that have mental health.
you want to take your clients to opioid abatement treatment facilities? I mean, where are you going to take them to address, this is opioid money. I haven't heard much of what you said regarding opioid treatment, opioid abatement.
Yes, because we will be running the groups ourselves. We're not looking to transport somebody to, say, addiction recovery services or the like. Now, I'm not going to say if somebody.
I just want to cut you off. What experience do you have in dealing with the opioid issue?
On a personal basis or as
No,
a group?
Right now, your group.
We have,
Infinity Peer Support.
we have experience in the sense that a portion of our members have opioid and other substance use disorder. We work with them every day. We have them in for one-on-ones. They're involved in other groups, whether it be ARD or Reiki or whatever the group is. We work with them in, on a peer basis, counseling on a peer basis, one-to-one. That includes bringing somebody over to, SOS or calling up the doorway in order to get them into a recovery program. So yes, that includes opioids. That's been probably the predominant drug of choice of the U.S. up in the Northeast for the past 10 to 15 years. So yes, we have plenty of experience with that.
Okay. And once this 50,000 is spent, what happens to the program?
I'm sorry, say again?
Once you have the $50,000 and it's spent and you don't have any more funds, what's going to happen next?
Well, we're not going to wait till the funds run out. We already have the ability, and we'll be working on creating different funding streams in order to continue the program and grow it in the future years.
Okay. My point is it's going to be sustainable? We give you
yes.
50,000, it's not, you're not going to come back looking for 50,000 in 6 months or 8 months or a year?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, we won't be doing that. I mean, maybe next year if you're offering it again, we might want to ask you again, but past that, no, we won't be coming back in between now and then. We'll be working on making it sustainable from here on out.
Thank you. All set? Let's wrap it up. Yeah.
All set?
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last but not least.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilmen and women. My name is Carrie Norton. I am the Executive Director of Hope on Haven Hill, and I appreciate the committee that has spent so much time making the proposal, reviewing the proposals, and it's such an honor that you all did that, to the Finance Committee that reviewed this, and then all of you re-reviewing all of this. I appreciate you so much. Hope on Haven Hill, we asked for $100,000 because we appreciate all of the folks in Rochester that are going to do the work, and so I wanted to make sure I didn't take all of the money or ask for all of the money. That was specific because I appreciate all of the folks that would want to do it. But to clarify, we take care of pregnant and parenting women. We have been now since 2016. We've helped over 1,000 women, and predominantly we take care of, we're home-based in Rochester. We have been supported and cared greatly for by the city of Rochester and by many of the organizations and businesses and all of the other social service providers in Rochester. And so Rochester has been very, very, very good to our organization and especially to the women and children that we serve, and I'm super grateful for that. But we opened our center on Charles Street in 2023, and although in our residential program, we only care for pregnant and parenting women with 5-year-old and under. In our center, we do take care of women who don't have children. And so that is a distinction in our outpatient services. But it is a niche, and we do not take care of men unless they are 18 and under children of the women that we care for. But we are caring for multi-generational, folks here. So we're taking care of 2 generations of people in a prevention way as well. What we're proposing is to expand our services. We are work shoes on the ground in Rochester, taking care of the folks in the community every single day. And it's to be able to expand our services that we're doing now and that we're doing really well with great success, and to be able to help more community members here in Rochester. And we're really excited to do that because we're doing a lot of work in the community and trying to reach as many of the folks in Rochester that we can. So we are proposing to expand services by expanding our medical services. So for our psychiatric nurse practitioner to be able to expand medicated treatment and to have expanded outpatient services as well. So that is with our original proposal. So I'm open to any questions. I've been up since 4 a.m. I bet all of you are too, so I'm the last to go. I'm a little punchy now. So I'm open to any questions, but I'm very grateful for all of the work that everybody has done on making this work. We also are recipients. We have state opioid money. We are very comfortable reporting, and we are very fine with a reimbursement model as well, if that's what the city is looking for. That's something that we do all of the time as well. and we are sustainable, especially because of the way that our proposal is. This is something that will expand our medical provider services, which will ensure that the women that we're caring for are able to get the medication they need to be able to really thrive as well.
Thank you, Councilor Walker.
Likes answering questions before you ask them. I'm well aware of your facility. I took a tour of it several years ago. You do great work in the city, and I appreciate you being here. I'm going to try to ask a question that you didn't answer after you said take questions. So you're very familiar with opioid abatement
Yep.
funds.
Yep.
You can meet all the criteria for what we're talking about here.
Yep.
You said how many clients have you served in the city?
We have served now in September, our numbers were over 1,000 women.
Are these separate women or are these reoccurring?
These are
back?
separate women. Yep.
No more questions, thank you.
Councilor Sullivan and Councilor.
To clarify, when I said since September, that was my number as of September's data. So I just realized that sounded like since September we've taken care of 1,000 women. That is not what I meant, and I apologize. September's data number, we had hit 1,000 women helped since we opened, so in 2016.
Still impressive.
Sorry. All of a sudden I just had some panic thinking, everybody was thinking I helped at that. I would love to. But by using this opioid abatement money, we will be able to help expand services and help more women in Rochester immediately to get the services that they need.
1,000 total is impressive. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I was pretty excited about it too.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, so my question was kind of along that. So 1,000 individuals helped since 2016.
Along with their children.
So how many would you say of those are Rochester residents? You have a guess?
More than, almost 50%, yeah.
And my other question was
Because
just
we
like
are statewide, yeah.
if I asked the other group, like I asked the other groups, if you had to estimate how many people as your metric would be served in 6 months?
Yep, so we would be able to expand to 100 women if we got this today. So we would be able to expand by 100 people. We would be able to do this right now.
What's that, Kevin?
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Horn.
In looking up some of the information that I looked at from everybody's, one of the things I ran across was, I think it was a couple years ago, you submitted on a report to the state on opium for a person you were helping, and that person now has gone through your program and learned how to go to work and have a job. And I guess what I read was pretty impressive. I'd like to have the council be able to hear from you the exact way that happened.
Well, it happens all the time. And I wouldn't say it was just my organization, because I bet all of the organizations that are doing this work also have those types of stories. But I have so many there's so many success stories, and it's their stories. But I will tell you, we just had our annual gala, and we did feature somebody who is a past graduate of our program who has just been promoted to executive director of New Generations in Greenland. And, but that's not even unusual. Like, we have women that are doing fabulous all of the time. So we also say success is a wide, different variety of things, right? Like, so we consider it a success when a woman does get admitted and leaves, even though we don't want her to leave prematurely, but then she feels like she got such great care for 24 hours that she picks up the phone and says, I need to come back, I do need more help. And so, like, we measure success in a whole bunch of different ways, but we have tremendous success stories, just like that we have a graduate that was in federal drug court and is now running an organization, is my peer as an executive director now, which is incredible. We have lots of stories like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Again, I'll reiterate, We all greatly appreciate your organization and the work that you do in Rochester, and I know you're a nationally recognized organization, and that's really impressive, and we very much appreciate that. At your facility at Haven Hill Road, how many beds?
We only have 8 in our Haven Hill, so that's our high-intensity residential program.
Right.
So that's what like people consider to be like inpatient treatment. Yep. And then our recovery, we have recovery
Lydia's
housing
house.
as well. What's that?
Lydia's house, is that?
That is not us.
Oh,
That
that's
is in
not you.
Somersworth. Yeah,
Okay,
that
I'm
is
sorry.
a totally different
What's
entity.
the name of yours on Charles Street?
Abby's Place. So
Abby's
we have
Place, I'm
recovery
sorry.
housing, Abby's Place, and we have independent affordable housing, Camilla's Place as well. So we actually have affordable housing, which is actually affordable housing, 100%. So it's $1,100 for a 2-bedroom, no, $1,100 for a 2-bedroom, and it's $1,300 for a 3-bedroom, and they're beautiful. So we actually have affordable housing for women that are doing incredible. Like again, like we have so many stories of women who are doing really well.
And how many beds on Charles Street in the
There are
Abbeys?
no beds in our center, but that is why we're able to help so many now, because not everybody needs high-intensity residential treatment forever, and they need it. But what they need is they need treatment, they need support, and then they need housing. And so like that's why we have recovery housing, that's why we have independent affordable housing, and that's one of the things that, one of our visions are, and one of our strategic plans is we are purchasing more housing stock, hopefully on Charles Street as well. But because housing is a big deal. But at our center, we're able to provide all of their needs on an outpatient basis as well. So they're able to have continued care. So even if they've had inpatient treatment, they don't just have that and then they just have nothing else. They can have intensive outpatient programming, and then with this proposal, we'll be able to do partial hospitalization programming if they need that level of care as well. So they'll be able to meet with our psychiatric nurse practitioner, have all of those needs met. We have a family nurse practitioner that meets with the moms and does pediatric care for the babies and children. And then we also have a nurse midwife who takes care of the prenatal women as well. We have a child care center that is also has an early Head Start staff, 32 hours a week. So everyone that is in our program also has those services, and as well as an hour a week of one-on-one, and then they have socialization weekly with groups. And then we have a thrift store that's free for all of our clients, and we do open it up to the community. We do community outreaches in our parking lot, and we'll be kicking that off actually in May too. So we have a whole bunch of staff that just got car seat certified, so we'll be doing car seat checks as well as part of our community service. But we have a gym. So we're just looking at all of the wellness for the clients that we serve. And that's, I think, in my opinion, that is why we have really good outcomes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Councilor Credo.
Hi, Carrie. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How was Wrigley Field?
What's that?
How was Wrigley
It
Field?
was really good.
I'm very jealous. For those that don't know, she just got back from Chicago, and I'm very jealous because it's the one stadium I have not been to that I really want to go to. I'll try to make this really quick. You said something, and I'm going to quote you. I did not want to take all of the money, meaning the opioid abatement money. Can you explain why that is and why we need to take it very seriously about how we distribute the money and not putting that in one spot, and why you felt that way?
So that's your decisions. So I leave that up to all of your decisions. When I wrote the proposal, I knew that I care for women, and honestly, it does ring true. I don't take care of men unless they're children. And so in my opinion, I thought there would be other organizations, and I'm a sharer even though I'm an only child. So I was like, there's only $300-something. I was just thinking that I wasn't going to ask for it all because I knew that there were other organizations that would. We all could use it. I know 100%. I could tell you right now what I would use all of it for, because I could use it all. And I could do great work with it.
And I think it just goes without saying that I think you're my number one pick, and the reason being is you have such a great track record. I think what you do for women is amazing. I've toured your facility over 2 times now. So I just, and I can't say enough good things about what you do. So thank you very much for being here, and thank you for all you do for our community as well.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone on the council. I appreciate you, Mayor Callahan. The city of Rochester has my heart because we have it was a stretch to originally do this work. And it was a little bit opposed, and that was rough, but it hasn't been since. And that meant a lot for me because the women that we care for but feel like, and they become a part of this community, and that makes all the difference, and it's really important. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
How many inpatient, outpatient, how many clients do you have right now?
So right now, we have 7 in the house right now, pending admission for one of the beds. And then in our center, we have between 40 and 60 monthly.
Okay. And how many, I think Stefano was getting in this, how many housing units do you have affordable for these women who, I assume some of them I mentioned to the other group, you're actually homeless folks too, right?
Yeah. So
I think that's important.
So women who are admitted to our programs, our residential program, our treatment program, are prioritized if they're homeless or imminently homeless. It's a state initiative, and so we have recovery housing as well, and we have 8 beds at Abby's Place. And then we also have the independent affordable housing, which is 2 units for 2 families, and 2 full families live in them.
17 families.
Yeah. And then,
That's terrific. Good.
Yep.
One of the things that I've seen a lot with being in drug court is folks that have actually recovered, they're trying to get into the workforce, and they have bad teeth. How do you address that?
Yeah, so we work really closely with them. We do a lot of life skills groups, and we work with them to help. We work actually with Dover Adult Ed if they need GEDs. And one of the things that we do in all of our aspects of care is that we do provide childcare. So if they need to work with Dover Adult Education, they do that. We've worked with different programs. We've actually made sort of a quasi program, but we worked with Liberty Mutual, who did some readiness. So it was resume building and interview skills, and then they actually hired several of our clients in a direct sort of entry job that really propelled them. And so we've been doing things like that with different businesses. But we're also really located well. And so like the city of Rochester, again, they feel comfortable because they learn pretty quickly that they've been supported, because when they come in, they're often feeling like nobody does support them or care about them. And they learn pretty quickly that we were opened because the city and so many other people supported that we opened. And so they do begin to believe that and feel really comfortable with this city. And so it's been really wonderful watching them get jobs.
Yeah. 2 more questions about getting jobs. In my experience, dealing with some of these folks that are getting jobs, one of their issues, I might not have said this clearly the last time I'm wearing this mask, because I have to, dental care. How do you address dental care for your clients?
So we have a dental fund, and we've worked with Delta Dental. So we actually have the dental bus come to Hope on Haven Hill. So they do come and service all of our clients. And I fundraised and got a dental fund because a lot of the women that we care for, very young, have really significant dental issues and often don't have teeth either.
Right.
And so we've been able to provide, and it's cost prohibitive to be able, it's $5,000 to get dentures, and that's not covered. And so we've been able to help with that too.
And what would you do with all the money if you got it all?
I would do what we proposed, and then I would also expand the numbers for our outpatient services, and I would purchase the house across the street and use it for recovery housing.
How many units would that be?
That would be it's a duplex, and it would be 2 It would either be 2 families or it would be in one recovery house for 8 women.
Okay. So you'd be up to around 25
Yep,
that you're covering housing for.
yep.
All on Charles Street, that same area.
It's right across the street.
I don't want to give up any secrets, Tony, sorry about that. Anybody else? Thank you. Again, obviously, very, very impressive group you run. Ms. Norton, thank you.
Yep. Well, thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you very much.
All righty. Okay, we got the agenda here. Department reports. Any questions for the city manager department reports? Councilor Sullivan.
I'm never going to pass up the opportunity, even though it's getting
course not.
very late. My questions for the city manager, probably don't have them, but it's about the welfare department report. I really like the laundry card program. That's great. Do you know why? I mean, do you think it's because of like the warming shelter, whatever, why it dropped off to like nothing in the winter? Do you have any idea on that?
I have to circle back with Director March and let you know.
Okay, because that's interesting. I mean, because they're at about 2/3. I think we're between October and July is what they planned on giving out 100. So we're like 2/3 of the way there, and they've given out 2/3, but it seems to have dropped off. So I didn't know if that was it. And my other comment was, I noticed, and today's probably about the day that the warming center is closing. So I just wanted to make it known that we ran into the issue last year. I don't know the avenue to do it, but I would strongly urge that the council set something up, basically this month, to start planning for what we're going to do, if anything, this winter. And I think we should set up a reporting schedule that the council gives an update on it monthly, maybe starting in June as we lead up to, I don't know when we took the vote, was it October or November last year? But I don't want to get caught in a situation like we were last year, so.
Okay. Anything else on department reports? Hearing none, we move on to non-public, non-meeting. I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public.
Motion, so moved.
Second.
I move we go into non-public to discuss land RSA 91A 3 II Part D.
Second.
Roll call. Oh, yeah.
Counselor Dejeufoy?
Yes.
Counselor Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yes.
Counselor Horn?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Herman?
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot?
Yes.
Counselor Credo?
Yes.
Counselor Richardson?
Yes.
Counselor Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor Callahan?
Yes. Motion carried.
Back to order. Would you like to seal?
Make a motion that we come out of non-public session and seal the minutes indefinitely because the revealing of the information would make the deals moot.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Dujafroy,
Yes.
Counselor Fitzpatrick. Oh, sorry. Counselor Sullivan,
Yes.
Counselor Horn,
Yes?
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Fontenot,
Yes?
Counselor Credo,
Yes.
Counselor Richardson,
Yes.
Counselor Hammond.
Yes.
That's it.
You have to adjourn.
If there's no objection? Meeting adjourned.
Let it be written, so let it be